nice evening, dear?
It's cold.
Not too bad. She's getting cool though. It's going to be a cold night, I think. Days are good though. 24s, 25s. Can't argue with that. I think everybody's asleep. I'm not sure. What was it? Oh, Friday night. There'll be always plenty of drama on Friday night, so they're probably all exhausted.
Yes. Friday night.
He said, she said.
It's Friday night for most people.
That's true. Hello, Mel.
Hey, Mel.
We picked something up today. Dun, 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 dun. You're going to love them. You're going to see them. So cute. Have a look at that. It's a Jarrah park bench. They're only 2-seaters, but they're really nice because we got 2 of them.
Yeah, they're something you can't sit in for hours, but it'll be nice in the garden.
We got ourselves a kissing bench, she says. I say they're 2-seaters, not 3-seaters, but they're really nice. Oh, I see. Now we're modelling. Yes. Oh, probably we're thinking about putting them down the back. We put the pool in, out in the...
Yeah, like they're a bit short, but
They're nice.
the idea is that they're small and cute to fit around the yard.
There's a guy here in Perth who does a lot of refurbishment. Obviously, he just picked up the 2 ends of each bench.
It just fits on it.
You what?
My arse like it just fits on it.
Is that saying something about the bench is too small?
No.
Or your ass is too big?
The arse is too big. I have to go down and move in with Mel, so I'll lose weight, eat some of the food.
Yeah, but we spotted them on Gumtree and he come and delivered them. They're really cool.
You haven't even sat on it.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're good.
I had a drink of water.
So we thought they were pretty good. They weren't real cheap, but I know how much material in Jarrah alone's gone into them, so paid 140 each for them, but we think it's value for money. They're very solid.
I sent Mel a link today on some gumboots that had chickens all over them. Hi, Mel. So you're going to buy me a pair, aren't you, Mel?
Jez, hello. Pair of gumboots.
They're $100.
For what?
Because they've got chickens on them. Hey, Mel.
Yeah, but they're work boots in the garden.
Put it over in the yard. Just look at
I'm
them.
going to look at you for a second. Don't get embarrassed.
I'm not embarrassed.
Okay.
Might go. We could go for a drive and find a graveyard.
Ooh.
Most haunted.
You're going to be rich, Mel. Did you win lotto? Did we do lotto?
I do lotto every Saturday.
Oh, no one's
If I can't win first division, I'll buy you a pair, Mel.
chicken clothes for the rich people. That's what Mel's saying.
That's what we're going to do. Start up our own chicken
Jojo,
place.
hello Jojo.
Hey, Jojo.
I'll quickly say Jojo, because we were chuffed with these. They're really good. That's what we picked up today, Jojo. They're a hardwood, 2 of them, hardwood park benches. Just all the homeless people in our backyard have got somewhere comfortable to sleep. And when you visit, they're only about 3 and a bit foot long, but you can curl up a little bit in the fetal position. It'd be fantastic. Is it getting cool?
It's getting bloody cold.
No, not really.
It is. 16 degrees.
You could actually chuck them in the car. Like if you went down to the riverbank, we could actually put one of them in the car.
Yeah, and then they think we stole them from the...
Yeah, as we're putting it back in the car,
yeah.
the ranger say, "What are you doing taking that bench? It's mine. Put it back." Yeah, what are they? Gumboots with chicken painted on them, or?
No, the plastic's obviously, it's made like knee-high gumboots, and there's just chickens all over them.
It's probably like a Chinese job.
Plus a slip-on shoe with chickens all over it, but they're that expensive because it's like a fundraiser, Mel.
How many chickens you got in the house?
I don't know, half, well, a quarter of what I used to have many moons ago.
Just take it for a wander and show them.
I don't have that much chicken stuff anymore.
Oh, chicken depravity.
Yes.
If I paid $100 for gumboot, there better be a stripper in them.
Mel?
You got to need business with Mel.
Yeah.
Chicken merchandise.
Yep.
There's a chicken on the loose in Canada. I thought it was a turkey, Jojo. I could have been wrong. Gobble, 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 gobble.
I was
Gobble,
waiting
gobble,
for you to say that. I think I need to make a coffee. It'll break me out.
That'd be a good idea, actually. I wouldn't mind a coffee.
It's hard doing videos.
Oh, yeah, you're exhausted. Look at her. She's hang out, it. What do we have to eat today? I know we ate something.
Oh, too much. Toasted sandwich.
Got a free chicken coop today, adding to the existing chicken house. There's always the odd chicken coop going for free, isn't there, Mel? We noticed that. We're going to get 3 chickens, we've figured out.
3, have we?
3, yep.
No, that's an uneven number.
It is. I don't know whether you noticed that. Did you?
I want 2 or 4. 2's plenty.
Well, we'll cut one in half. We'll call them hoppies or staggers. I don't know, Jojo. I imagine there's a bit of underhand stuff going on there. I think poor old the man in the van is in for a little bit of a surprise, I think. Could be wrong, but not often.
Ah,
I'll go and put the kettle on.
I'll do it.
No, I'll do it. You stay there.
No.
You're exhausted. You're going to take the kettle with you when you put the
Mrs.
kettle
Can
on.
I ask? Oh, hang on. Mel wants to ask a question first.
Okay. Mrs. Seeds, or Mr. Seeds.
Mrs. Seeds.
Righto. Standing by for the question. And the answer is no, I'm married. Is Norm an individual with special needs? I think he has mental health issues, Mel. I think the attention that he has sought over the last 6 months, not only on the Man in the Vans channel, but elsewhere, would indicate he wants adulation. He wants to be recognised. He wants to be the Caesar of YouTube. And I think there's a little bit more behind the scenes than we actually know. Do I think he's actually there to help the man in the van? Not at all. I don't think that for 1 minute. Norm F is in this for Norm F. Or if you were a genuine person, Mel, and you wanted to help somebody, you wouldn't broadcast it, would you? If you were genuine.
Well, it depends on the circumstances, but that circumstance is just like weird.
Well, he's manipulated the poor monkey. Norm F is the new monkey grinder, the organ grinder. He's manipulated the monkey to the extent that no one else gives him peanuts. Has everyone else noticed that? I'm sure there's the odd one, but basically 1 organ grinder and 1 fat monkey. And that organ grinder now has total control. Yes, we do the same, Jojo, but like you won't read about it anywhere or hear about it. Who asked Husky, you two is my son? Is that a virtual birth or is that a real one, Jazz? Just curious. No, the art of giving is selecting and discerning who you can help with what you have without implicating yourself as being a big-headed prick to the world, saying, look, I gave Mel $1. I'll advertise it on YouTube. And I gave you $1, Mel. Now you're so grateful for me, and all the other people will adulate me. Will they? Hello, son. You've been following Mum around, have you? You're checking up on her. Good idea, son. Keep an eye on her. But, yeah, there's more afoot than what people believe, for sure. But, yeah, I think... I'm going back to my benches because they're more important than the man in the van. we're thrilled with them. Cool. I'm glad you're going camping. I was going to suggest, I don't know when it's going to be, but it's not too far away. But the problem we have, Mel, is we don't have any rain. And I was going to suggest we would catch up at the Avon descent, even just for an afternoon, you know what I mean? But I have a terrible feeling there's not going to be much descending going on the Avon. There's no rain. Oh, there's several places between York and around that area and up through the hills. You can find some good spots, like a little picnic spot. You can watch the boat go past, have a couple of wines or beers and enjoy the day, because there's normally like 300 or 400 competitors, but I haven't seen rain here for 6 months. So Wellington Dam's a good spot to go just any day. Ask, it really is. Yeah, I like to purge my marrons. They sit in the muddy creeks and rivers, so I stick them in a half rainwater tank and circulate the water for a couple of days. Then eat the marron, then you don't get the crunchy bits. You know what I mean? It's like yabbies, I do the same thing. But I don't know, I think normally it's July, end of July, I think, the Avon descent. I could be wrong, but normally because we've had some rain by now. But see you later, Jojo. Yeah, I've cooked yabbies down the creek, but you know, if you purge them, you get rid of all that crap in their guts. Oh, light action camera. She's turned on the power. Actually, I should turn around and speak to you, shouldn't I? But you're pointing. Yeah. There we go again. Me and Mel have to put up with this. Another day of blue skies. And it's winter. Well, it's just about winter. 1st of June. It's not too cold tonight, Mel. It's not too bad. I was thinking of having a Scotch fillet. I don't know. We ate something today. I forget what it was. Oh, that's right. She made toasted cheese and salami sandwiches. The missus was in the kitchen cooking toast. So she whacked salami and cheese together. And I couldn't eat it all. She made 1.5 sandwiches, so I got half a sandwich for a nibble later. But I was thinking of a Scotch fillet. They're my lemon and mandarin tree behind me. They're going okay. Got to get them in the ground in the next 4 to 6 weeks though. Got to select a spot. I'm thinking about growing them on a trellis. Mel, I don't know if you've ever seen that, where you get 2 or 3 poles and concrete them in, and you get that wire like people have along verandas. You make a little trellis about every 9 inches, and then you train the leaves like that. Having tomahawk, oh nice, 2-eye fillets on, oh yum. Anyone doesn't know what a tomahawk steak is, I do. Pick the bugger up, it's about this big bone. Bloody beautiful. You must have got that from the butcher, Mel. You won't get that from the supermarkets, that's for sure. You've got to ask the butcher to make them. I've asked a few times. Yeah, it was good, the bacon and egg roll. I always use, you got it at Coles. I've never seen it there. I always like using streaky bacon. I don't like those big round eye things at the supermarkets. They're pretty tasteless. And they spit loads of water. 24 to 8. That's, how many did you get? You got some spare ones, Mel? 24. 66% off. Ooh. And they're delicious. So let me have a guess. You've left them out just to come to room temperature. Weber's nice and ready. Bit of salt and pepper. Maybe a little touch of olive oil on them. And the Weber. Close it down. Away from the heat to start off with, Mel, or you just sear them first? Hello, Annette. Yeah, your hubby's a meat cookerer. Oh, we get all types of bacon. The Berg Show, we get just plain rindy bacon. You know what I mean? And you get the bacon with the big eye in it. I like the streaky bacon, which is what they call a flatback. Either side they open it up, right down the belly, and so it's really yum. It goes really crispy, I've always been nice to you, Annette. I don't know what's going on. Don't fight near. I don't know what's going on. But, nah, streaky bacon. No, it's not the real Bergs. It's a Berg impersonator. Don't know why you want to impersonate Bergs, though. Really? Man, I heard something terrible. That Berg's mother and father are leaving home. What, they're going to leave Bergs home alone? What's he going to do? What are you going to do, Bergs, if you're left home alone? Or you can't stay there? Maybe you could ask them to leave the garage in your name. Just chuck a bed down there, pay a little bit of electricity, you should be fine. Right? I heard that your mum and dad are leaving. Can't you go with them? I don't mind being blocked by anybody. Bergs might have me blocked, I don't know. But I always let everyone speak, unless they're a bit mean and nasty. Then the missus comes in and jumps on them. Yeah, all Bergs need is an empty barrel and a good woman. So your parents aren't leaving. Well, that's good. I was a bit worried, seriously, Bergs. You're going to be left on your own some, because no one likes to be alone. That's fair. You've got to probably move on eventually, I suppose, but I mean, I don't have my parents anymore, so nor does my wife, and I wish they were here, but they're not. So you should treasure them while you've got them, because you don't get another one. I think that's Mel flying over in a little Cessna. Hey, Mel. We get, because we're sort of near the, actually I'll show you. Yeah, Bergs, this is what we got today. If you've got nowhere to sleep, all right? There's a couple of park bench chairs there. Actually, it's a bit blurry. Maybe it's just a bit dark there. So if you want to crash out, you're welcome to come on our patio. It's got a roof on it, mate. And you can have a bed. You might have to put two together because they're not that long. But I'm pretty sure we could pick up the airport from here. If you look down there, and I'll try and zoom in. I can't zoom in. I'm trying to zoom in. Do you see that pinky flashing thing up near the trees? Oh, hold it steady. You're all blurry. I'm trying to hold the damn thing steady. Just not focusing. See, it's going out of focus. I zoomed in too much. All right, I'll take it out. Take the bugger out. Anyway, where that big orange light in the middle is the tower. Air traffic control tower. If I could raise this a bit higher, you'd see the ocean. A bit higher over there, you'd see the middle of Perth. So it was sort of in between everywhere. Yeah, you can't focus in too much.
Put on the chicken. Show Mel my chicken.
Oh, yeah,
my
Mel?
chicken, Mel?
I think she's seen it dozens of times. Oh, damn thing. There's the chicken. What do we call this chicken? I call it Bergs, because it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really contribute anything to the garden. We used to grow herbs in there. I wonder if Bergs does any gardening. Your son gave it to you for your birthday.
No, my daughter-in-law's parents, actually. About 4 or 5 years ago. It's quite big.
I don't know if you can get them, Bergs. They're magnificent. Some people put them in the oven, but the ends blow out. I don't like that. So I like to just shallow fry, just slowly, just enough heat. Turn them around 3 or 4 times. They're absolutely delicious. The best I can describe for the Americans, it would be like cabbage roll. and it's sort of a pastry type thing on the outside.
I wouldn't say it's cabbage roll because it's got a cut up carrot as well. And
Got peas, beans,
peas.
carrots, cabbage. No chicken at all.
No,
No, they're not. They're vegetarian.
I don't
But-
know. Mel, are they? Have they got meat in them?
I don't think
I've
Chico
never
rolls.
really read the
But they are yum. They're really tasty. But that's all we had for dinner last night. Just one Chico roll. And I was thinking of cooking a Scotch fillet. I might still cook it. I'm not sure.
I don't want them.
But we're very pleased with the. No, my mother-in-law used to love roll mops. I've got to take the zoom off this. It's crap when you zoom. We get them in Australia. They're only about $5 a jar, and you get about 4 roll mops. That's all you get in them. Mainly Mediterranean people like it, Slavic people and Germans. But it's an acquired taste.
That's alright. You can still see the chook. That's good like that. Chico rolls.
Yeah, it's a good
Australian
description.
Version of a spring roll or egg roll.
I missed that last bit. What else is in? There's no meat in them, is there, Mel, there?
They are deep fried fast food and thick, almost chewy, doughy wrapper on it. Yeah, it's like a thick dough pastry, really, isn't it, Mel?
Well, Bergs, when I was a kid living in the UK, I used to have periwinkles, little winkles, and all sorts of little seafood things done down by the shore. The people in the vans used to, you know how you get a cone, like a cone of ice cream. We'll take the ice cream away. The paper cone they used to do, and then put the winkles in there, a bit of vinegar, a bit of salt. And I thought they were good as a kid, but now I don't like them at all.
Hey, Lynn, Mel,
Hi, Lynn.
Mel, are you saying there's mutton?
Sorry.
Mel,
You're talking to someone.
Yeah, she can hear me. Leave my chicken so people can see my chicken. Mel, are you saying there's mutton in them?
I love mutton. It's a long, slow process, but it's absolutely delicious. Yeah, but I think it's all broken down, Mel, if you know what I mean. Like it's pulverised into that paste. That's what you're getting with the. Then they must add peas, carrots,
Well,
whatever. But
that's
look,
good.
we don't have them very often, and they're not too bad health-wise. Like if you said, as a fast food, are they really bad if they're soaked in deep fried for a long time? Yeah, I'm sure they soak up. But I only put the tiniest bit of oil, just to basically cook 1/4 each time before I turn them. Oil's not bad for you. It's everything in life. It's about quantity, how much. But the other ones, I don't mind them. I don't like them as much as Chico Rose. But the spring rolls, I think.
I like
who
spring
makes
rolls.
those?
The big ones, Mel, like
Olympia or something?
the size of the Chico rolls, but the spring rolls. I like those.
Corn rolls, yeah. Not containing chicken, yeah. Actually, most of the spring rolls you get around the world have no meat in them at all. They're generally all vegetarian.
Yeah, but the spring, you know the spring rolls I'm talking about, Mel. They're the same size as a Chico roll.
Yeah,
And,
marathon. Marathon, they're called.
Yeah. What is a pot stickers?
What are those things Americans like? They like a sausage in batter,
Mel, you're smart.
whatever they are.
What? Sausages in batter?
Yeah, yeah.
Savoy?
No, they
Dagwood dog.
Dagwood dogs, they're bloody awful.
What is a pop stickers?
Lynn, I believe they've both been arrested and taken to Guantanamo, and when they got there, the man in the van asked to be strip searched again,
The
just because he thought they hadn't done a thorough job first time.
Hey Scarlett.
But they've lost 2 men apparently.
Mel,
Canadian mounted troop and a horse
Mel, the
disappeared.
Dagwood dogs is a Frankfurt with this really thick batter around it, then deep fried. Usually you get them at carnivals and sideshows, stuff like that. It's usually that sort of food, isn't it? Like in a what do you call those vans? Food vans and stuff like that sell them.
Bergs, I like making
chicken
dumplings. There's a couple of videos on my channel, if you could be bothered. But I always make a chicken stock. I always buy things like chicken wings. They're really cheap. And I probably broil them for two or 3 hours. And then I take the chicken out and you're left with this beautiful broth. But I generally add things like a bit of salt, a bit of pepper, and then you can add whatever you like to that broth. But then I make my dumplings out of wontons. You can use the chicken meat if you want to, but I tend to like pork. My wife doesn't like pork and prawn, but I do like that combination with a bit of ginger and garlic. But they're pretty easy to make. I don't know what my video's called. I did one 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, on
Oh, I actually made it for Empty Nester. I made it for the Empty Nester. And
the wonton soup you made.
something like that, yeah. What's your idea as a pot sticker?
It's like a. It says up here. It's like a chicken dumpling. I've never heard of them. Well, Bergs, you'll have to go and do a video and find them and eat them and show us what it is.
I think Bergs likes his teriyaki chicken, doesn't he? Which is literally just teriyaki sauce. Marinate the chicken. There you go. But teriyaki is excellent for marinating meat. I'm sure Mel knows that, or husband would know that. Just a dash of apple cider vinegar, good dollops of teriyaki. Put them in a plastic bag, leave them in the fridge overnight. Man, that makes the steak tender and very tasty. Well, as Berg knows, teriyaki is very nice. You do that with pork, do it with chicken. Works exceptionally well with steak. But it's soup and stew time of the year now. Welcome back, Jazz.
Hey, Jazz.
And I will be making my famous peen ham soup. I've got a couple of videos of that. I think one video's got 50 or 60,000 views on it. And all it is ham hock and split peas.
I cooked tonight, so.
I told him you cook. You made
Yeah.
toasted
Sandwich.
salami and cheese. It was gourmet night here.
Yep. It's the way I made it gourmet.
Mm. But I'm tempted to have a little bit of steak with some steamed veg, I think. Just sort of calling me. See if I get the urge.
Well, I don't want any
Why?
because I don't feel like
I
steak.
bought you a steak as well.
Oh,
Oh,
hardly
I'll eat
steak.
it.
Yeah.
I'll eat both, but I won't have them both together. I've got 2 Scotch fillet steaks, about 30% off, and I got a container of brown mushrooms for next to nothing because they were marked down. I'm not proud, just like Mel. I check out the food to make sure it's okay, and I save a shitload of money, and that's always good. I mean, the 2 steaks, the mushrooms, and some steamed veggies that I would make would cost you in a restaurant here $20 each, and I would have paid probably $5 each, maybe 6. Carrot gratin, what's used in different things, Lynn. Which one are you talking about in particular? Gratin's a method of cooking. I do like a good coq au vin, and I don't mean the man in the van. Does anyone know what a coq au vin is? Mel will. Mel will know the answer to that. Coq au vin's very nice.
2 mortgages, Mel. God, no wonder you don't eat out. Well, when we come down to
She's
visit,
smart, she's an investor, that's good.
When we come down to visit you, we'll take you out to dinner. It'll just be bag of hot chips and on the
Scallops.
gutter.
No, coq au vin is chicken. Very yum. Fancy name for chicken casserole, to be honest with you. Hello, Ginger.
Hey, Ginger. What is a carrot gratin? Gratin.
Good night, Annette.
Good night, Annette. Steamed carrots. Add 3 eggs, butter.
Yeah.
Mild.
Gruyere.
and cheese.
She couldn't say
with-
that, so I
and
said it for
bacon.
her.
Oh,
Gruyere.
I have never heard of that or had it. I've got OCD about food groups at the moment.
Me and Mr. C's will be in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah. Milky says I get OCD about food groups at the moment. It's been chicken wraps for 2 weeks now. I'll get bored soon and eat something else.
Sometimes the fancy meals that you'll see on television and in books are really simple to make. They just sound extremely difficult when they're not. You know, one of the fundamental things I taught my kids as I was growing up, and it sounds simplistic, but I taught them many different ways to make eggs. Omelets, poach them, scrambled,
Fried.
and I taught them the art of that because, in fact, it's one of the most difficult things to do. You can make eggs very badly.
I don't care as long as they bounce.
I should do it one night, but my poaching method, if you get a little non-stick pan, I've got a little one that's only about 8 inches, so it's quite small, and I can put 3 or 4 eggs in there. But what I do is I spray the bottom of the pan with a little bit of olive oil, then I put boiling water in there and I get it up to a boil, then I put the eggs in. So what happens is it's a non-stick pan anyway, but the oil on the bottom lets the eggs float quite simply on medium to low heat. And I love, probably my favourite way to have eggs is poached eggs.
Well, no.
And like I say, if you can cook an omelette, there's an art form in there, and there are different ways to make omelette. There's the French method where you keep folding, and there's actually no colour in a French omelette at all. It's just sort of yellow. And then there's my type of omelette, which I like a little bit of a colour in there, and a crust, and a bit of cheese, and a bit of onion, and if I've got leftover bacon or mushies. I showed a video about a year and a bit ago where I do my mushroom omelette. You can do that. That's another way to poach them, Scarlett. Oh, you've got a flash poaching pan. Okay. But there's so many ways to cook eggs, but it is a great tool in learning to cook. If you can cook eggs many different ways, the method of what you're doing can translate to other foods. Like poaching fish, for example, is pretty similar to poaching eggs. You don't do it on a high temperature. You can poach, as some people will know, in milk. You can add flavour to that milk, to different parts. Yep, a drop of vinegar. That keeps it clear, Scarlett, as you know. Vinegar's great. I mean, the only problem you've got to be careful with vinegar in anything like that is you don't want to overdo it because you'll taste the vinegar through the food. But one of my mum's favourite was smoked haddock in milk, and it just smelled bad. As a kid, I'm thinking, well, what the hell is that?
My mum used to eat bread and milk. She
Yeah,
used to
bread
get
and
a
milk.
bowl of milk,
Yep.
break up. She liked crusty bread, not your normal loaf bread. She'd buy crusty bread, leave it a day. Then the next day she would put it in a bowl of milk and eat it. She loved that. A lot of Germans eat that actually. I don't like that.
One of the things I do like is French toast, and there's many ways to make French toast. Simple way, just get a slice of bread, put it in some egg, dip it in the egg, let it soak, but not too much because it'll fall apart. Finn and Hattie, yep, I've heard that as well, Ginger.
And Hattie.
Yeah. But French toast is pretty simple. I like to add a little bit of salt and pepper to the egg mix, because then it
Where did
seals.
because some people make sweet French toast. They do it with the egg and whatever, and then add cinnamon sugar on it.
There's many ways to do it. You can make a savoury or sweet French toast.
I mean, I love cinnamon because I love porridge.
But if you want really, really neat, beautiful breakfast, got some toast, all right? Just imagine having a pan where you've chopped up a little onion, little garlic, maybe some mushrooms, and you've sautéed them so they're cooked nearly all the way through. Then you get a tin of tomatoes, and they're pureed tomatoes, you know, the chopped up tomatoes. Add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, a bit of black pepper. Just get it to a simmer, just a little simmer. And if your pan's decent size, you can fit about half a dozen to a dozen eggs in there. And you slowly poach them in that. That's all you do, slowly poach them. And then near the end, you can use Gruyere or you can use cheddar. You just sprinkle a bit of cheddar over the top. Now imagine that cooked, it's hot, and you got some nice toast. Get your spatula, take your 1 or
Yeah.
2 eggs out with all that ingredients.
No, I wouldn't eat that.
That is
Oh, that's
magnificent.
not good gluten allergy, Ginger. But there is lots of food out there for you, Ginger.
Navajo bread, recipes online.
Navajo bread.
I make my own bread. I can make my own bread and butter and milk and cheese.
I'm a bread connoisseur.
It's not hard to make any of that stuff, really.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's
Someone
not.
like me.
You've
it
seen
is.
me make all of them.
Yeah, but it's for someone like me. Actually, I used to make bread when my kids were younger. I used to make a lot of bread. Homemade sausage rolls, fill up the freezer for them for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
With prepared meals. Well, I had to because of where we live.
Pescatarian diet with no sugar or gluten.
What is sort of diet
I
is
got
that?
a nickname Ginger Fishy. Hello, Fishy.
Oh, does that mean you eat fish stuff?
Yes, that's what you say. Pescatarian. I love sourdough. I like that chewy but crusty with the sourdough. That's the bit I like.
I mean, I like my veg. I'm not big on seafood, but I like fruit and veg. I'll only eat fish that either Suits has caught and cleaned and done,
Yeah.
or he's specifically gone and bought it and picked it. Yeah, bread. I love bread. Oh my God, I was in heaven in Europe. Oh,
There
all
were
that
some good
bread.
breads there. There really were good bread.
Oh.
And we don't, I mean, I don't now like I used to. I don't eat as much fish as I used to. Yes, I've made my own starter. I don't only just use it for sourdough though. You can use it for all types of breads. It's a very simple method.
Oh, yum.
It's to do with time. That's all it is.
Like fried bread. Oh, the best. My dad did the best fried bread on the barbecue, Mel. Like he'd do like a barbecue, and then when everything's nearly ready, then you chuck the bread on it.
Fried bread when I was a kid was quite common. We'd go down, get a bit of fried bread and cook it in the roast beef drippings of the night before. Magnificent. I could live off that stuff. Yeah, that gives you that nice lift, Scarlett, doesn't it? It's like a natural, well, you are using a natural yeast. That's why it does what it does to the sourdough. But you can put that in pancakes. I've never done it, but a mate of mine used to make it for his waffles. And they came out monster waffles, but really light because of the fact he used the sourdough
Yeah.
starter.
I know, Ginger. It's incredible how old some people's starters is. Hey, it's like somebody does it with gravy or something.
No, it's
with
not
a
great.
stock or
It's
something.
stock. It's just
Yeah.
stock. You can. My grandmother would be the best example. I swear it was the same stock pot that was there for my first 10 years of life because she just kept adding things to it. Every now and then she'd pull some dead bones out of there, but then she'd keep adding things to it. And I grew up with stews that had lots of veggies, lots of pearl barley. Some people, Mel just mentioned it, that's what's in Chico rolls, but pearl barley is delicious. It puffs up, it goes nice and tender, but nutty. It gives that little edge to a stew, particularly when you make dumplings with it. Yeah, but in the old days, Ginger, they would have the kitchen stoves would never go out, and they'd always be in the far corner, just humming, just not simmering quite, but then they'd boil it up a bit if they thought it was a bit daggy. I missed some of that. What's
Scarlett-
Maori bread, Mel? I guess it's New Zealand bread. It's
Scarlett said
bread.
there's families that have handed down their starters for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, I've heard of that, Scarlett.
There's a thing that would be used on ships and in camps that's pretty hard to get anything. What they would do is what they call drop bread. And that's simply making a batter. And I've got a video showing how I turned that into tortillas. Okay, so if you know where I'm going with this, drop bread could be made thicker to make a rise or thin to make a wrap. But a lot of camps in like the Antarctic and in places on ships, the cook would make hundreds of them. You know, they'd be in a fry pan, they'd put a little bit of this batter in there and they'd flip it over and it would look just like a tortilla. And they'd add a bit of salt to the batter so it would last 4 or 5 days.
I do like the Welsh cake. When we went over to Welsh,
Yeah, hardtack, yep.
And we
remember
had
that.
the Welsh cake. Or drop
We've
cake.
got a modern version of hardtack skull. It's what people that climb mountains and go to the Antarctic, they still have them in reserve because they're an energy bar. But they're pretty tasteless, but they've got the goods in there. Can you imagine staying like when Mawson, I'm just giving you one example of an explorer, went to the Antarctic and he had to leave half of his crew behind and all they ate was hardtack. Imagine getting up in the morning saying, "What's for breakfast, boys?" and saying, "More hardtack." "Oh, good-o." 3 months later, "What's for breakfast, boys?" Hardtack."
Oh, I could eat some Welsh cakes now.
Eat what?
Cinnamon.
Welsh cakes, yeah.
I love them.
You should make them.
I'll have to find a recipe and do it. And get rings to make them round. Even though the lady I watched make them in Wales, she didn't have a form. She just put them
That's
on the
fantastic,
griddle.
Ginger. I've got a pot given to me by my wife's mother, who got it off her mother, so her great-grandmother. Is it in there? It's not. It's in the box
No,
out
it's
there.
packed.
It's over 130 years old. It's a little thin cast iron pot with a lid, and it's absolutely superb for using to braise. You could only get half a chicken in there if you're lucky.
Potato scones. Actually, Ling, no. We didn't have any potato scones in the UK. None of the places we saw potato scones.
It's an Irish thing, really.
No, she said it's more popular than...
It's,
Oh, it's more popular in Scotland and Ireland. Oh, okay.
yeah, and Ireland was a staple. But if you've got, and this is true, you can check the nutrition out if you like, but if you have milk, and I mean milk from anything, and potatoes, you've got most of the food coverage as far as vitamins go. In other words, you'll survive on those, as some people did during very hard times. So milk and potatoes. I'm better than Elvis's tubby. Well, it's
No, because Mel said before...
Yeah,
you
it's
probably didn't
quantity
read it.
though. Oh.
No, Mel said before that apparently processed meats will kill you. Look, Mel, every month it's something different. Because I remember it was peanut butter, then Vegemite, then eggs, then this, then that.
Well, I know for a fact when I go to a butcher and I have sausages made by the butcher, they're made fresh each day, and the way to test if your meat's got a lot of salt in it, and sausages in particular, is to cook them, leave one, put it in the fridge, let it go cold, then taste your sausage. That's when you get the true sodium level. If you do it with the Coles or Woolies sausage from the supermarket, and you have a bite of it, it tastes like pure salt. It is so full of sodium. But the butcher sausages just have a little hint of salt because they're not after preserving them for weeks and weeks. They make them fresh, you buy them, you eat them.
Mashed potato flakes. What do you mean by mashed potato flakes, Ginger?
Sadly, poor old Elbow, as you call him, won't be around much longer. He is eating himself to death. There's all sorts of flours, though. I mean,
No, I'm just wondering what...
rice
Ginger
flour,
uses-
potato flour, rye flour.
Ginger
You-
uses mashed potato flakes to bread her fish in.
You should get real crusty. When I used to go fishing, I always took eggs, flour and breadcrumbs with me because I would catch a fresh fish. It'd still be quivering as a fillet. Flour, egg, breadcrumbs and lemons I used to take, by the way.
Panko crumbs are nice, Mel.
Panko are nice, but when you're out in the bush they're a bit fiddly. So plastic bag, breadcrumbs, half a kilo fillet of snapper in the big cast iron. Beautiful. Yep, there's many ways to thicken soups. You can do it. I don't like doing it at the beginning. Some people put flour on their meat, Scarlett. Do you know what I mean? I don't do that. I will make up a little mixture of corn flour and a little bit of water, just a little bit. And as I get near the end, I'll put little dribs and drabs in and think, yep, that's good. And corn flour gives a gloss to the meat as well. A lot of people will coat their meat. Yeah, you can make a roux. That's another way to do it. That'll certainly thicken. It's the same process though, isn't it, really? But corn flour has that ability to make meat glossy. than flour, like when you make a gravy out of stew juices. But the thing about little techniques is that you take time to learn them. Then it's something you don't learn all at once, and you experiment, and sometimes you make mistakes. I mean, when I made dumplings with self-raising flour, Scarlett,
Oh my God.
can you imagine what happened? Looked like Mount fucking Vesuvius. Oh, I've got the self-raising flour.
I used to make
Okay.
pumpkin scones too. I haven't made them in a long time. So Mel, when we come to visit you, what are you going to cook us?
Pie.
We're going to picnic, Mel, but you have to supply all the food. I mean, we'll pay for it. You cook it.
No, we'll do half and half. We'll bring a plate, Mel. That's how it's done.
Do we have to bring food on the plate?
You don't have to bring anything. You just need to bring a fork. But there's so many. There is no. People say, "Oh, you didn't make that meal the right way." And I'm going, "Well, I did." And they go, "No, you didn't do it the way I do it." I'm going, "Well, that's more to the point. I didn't make it the way you make it." But that's the beauty of cooking. The varieties of the same menu makes it interesting. Like if I go around to Mel and we have a shepherd's pie, I'll be going, "Wow, that's different." There'll be some again there, and she'll tell me. And then she'll come try mine. So it's not the same as mine, but it's good. But that's the secret. Cooking, there are no hard and fast rules. There's some basic rules, like don't use self-raising flour as dumplings. Well, she wants to be on chicken cam.
Yeah, give them a different view sometimes.
There are. And I would guarantee you, Scarlett, if you came round my place, but you'd have a stew from me, and there would be, out of 100 weeks you come round, you'd be saying, each time it's different. And I'd say, yep, because what I do is what I've got on hand at the time, I use. That way, I don't waste anything. So there may be a little bit more potato, more onion, a little bit more of spinach, because I had some spinach left over. So the stew won't be the same every time. The concept is it is still a stew. Could be made with lamb chops, could be made with beef bones, which I do like making it with beef bones, by the way, all that marrow that comes out. Am I on or not? I don't know whether I'm on.
Oh,
Just check. Yes. And Scarlett, you know the next point I'm going to note, and so would Mel. The least amount of ingredients usually makes the best meal. In other words, you can overdo it. A lot of budding cooks do just that. They'll add all these sorts of things, and all of a sudden they've mucked it up. You know what I mean? Because you keep it simple and taste, but you've got to taste your food. I remember teaching my kids, and I'm saying, "All right, you've got the onions and that they're ready to go. Let's add a bit of stock." And after about 10 minutes, I say, "Well, just taste it." They go, "I don't want to taste it. It's not finished yet." I said, "That's not the point." And I always taught my kids, don't add salt until it either is on your plate or bowl, or at the end when you think you could do with just a smidgen of salt. Because the killer of most meals go wrong is too much salt. So I generally don't use any salt, to be honest. I do salt and pepper my steak. Yeah, more like an alchemist, I think, isn't it, Scarlett? The thing is, when you learn to cook over many, many years, you actually sort of look in the kitchen and look around in the fridge and the freezer and think, yep, that's what I'm going to do. You actually know exactly what the meal's going to finished product is before you even cook it. Because you've got all those ingredients flying around in your head, and then basically you've got that worked out. Sometimes, like I remember finding something late when I was making something recently, and I thought I'm going to chuck those 2 bits of bok choy in there as well. Just because I thought, yeah, that'll add to it. I hadn't planned to use them, but the sneaky buggers were hiding down the bottom of the fridge. But I found them. I think if you can, and I always say this, and I don't mean to put anyone down, if you learn to grow food and you learn to cook it, you truly appreciate the whole process. Because there are chefs around the world that have never grown a damn thing in their life, but they wouldn't know that seasonally different types of herbs and fruit and veggies taste different. They just buy them and then they go and sell them in their restaurant. Whereas I love growing my own produce and I like using it in my cooking. No, I don't grow cows or sheep, but you get my method. I have cut apart both those animals in the past, and pigs. I've grown my own pigs and I've eaten my own chickens. But as I get older, I tend to prioritise the things I need to do. So there are no cattle down the back, and there will be a couple of chickens. Well, now 4 apparently.
True.
I thought 3, but oh, you want 2?
Two's enough for this yard.
Okay. There is, and there's great pleasure in serving it to people. Strange, I thought you did. Never mind, carry on. I don't know what that was about.
Milky thought Scarlett had an avatar.
Okay. It's a fascinating subject, food, because I learn. I watch lots of people do cooking on YouTube. I really do. And I think, oh, that's sneaky. And I put it in my little data bank. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll see someone finish off a meal by doing something slightly different. Like I always use a little bit of butter at the end when I'm finishing my steaks off. But I was watching recently someone just putting a couple of sprigs of thyme in there near the end to get that little flavour through the butter to go on the steak. I thought, well, that's pretty clever. I haven't got any thyme at the moment, but I will grow it. It's something I put in mashed potato, in stews, and all sorts of things, soups. And I do like growing and drying my own herbs, but dried herbs are more powerful and potent than fresh ones. I remember as a kid, we would get more meat after the spring began in the UK because they were killing sheep and cattle during the spring. And a lot of it on farms, they're weeding out animals, the older ones. You know what I mean? You didn't always get lamb, you more often got mutton, but that's when you would get a lot more meat, basically between spring and then by summer it'd just be over. So we didn't eat a lot of meat when I was a kid. There was a lot of gruel, in other words, lots of potatoes, cabbage, onions, you name it. Anything fresh out the garden with some pearl barley and some bones. My mum used to buy meat bones. That's what gave the flavour to the stews and soups. But there was, you know, if you found a bit of meat, you got excited. But you wouldn't tell anyone because they'd want it. I'm serious. It really hardly ever saw any meat. It was always bones.
Butcher used to give dog bones away. You had a
Yeah.
dog, if you knew you had a dog, you got bones for free. Now you've got to pay for the damn things.
As a kid, we used to have a big green bus, a bit like your American yellow buses drive around, and they would have everything on board: eggs, meat, vegetables, and they'd come once a week, and everything was served in a brown paper bag, and he had the scales on board and all that. But the veggies he would often buy off some of his customers, so we'd go around and he'd sell them, like he might sell a pound of potatoes for sixpence. And if someone sold him a pound of potatoes, he'd give them threepence, and he'd say, I've got to make a living, and which was fair enough. Or you'd barter. He said, if you've got a bag of spuds, I'll give you this, that, and the other. So
Yeah,
that happened.
True, Scarlett.
Hardly anyone barters anymore. I'm happy to do it.
There are some hundreds of years ago, whatever. Went through periods of eating a lot of meat, then not so much. Then
Well, if you're
eating a lot of
fortunate
meat.
enough. I don't know if everyone's seen them, but these are our little pickup today. We picked up these 2 park benches. Probably can't see them too well in the dark,
No, can't see them
But-
at all, hun.
but they're beauties. So that was our little pickup today. We're having Diane for dinner. They're really cool. They're going to look nice down the back somewhere. And they're handmade with what we call jarrah, which is a very ancient hardwood from my state in West
See,
Australia.
If I name any of my animals, they do not get eaten.
So I always call them chicken. Come here, chicken.
Now, when we get
Chicken.
these 2 chickens, they're getting names.
If we're getting 2 chickens and you've got anything to do with it, they'll have a pension card.
I want unusual colours. Not that I've got anything against white chickens, but I like the brown chickens because
I like the Isa Browns.
Yeah, because they can be cuddly.
I used to raise pigs, and one pig can certainly $20 a week, Bergs.
Oh, Ginger, I'd love to see that.
$20 each person.
I'd love some old church furniture. An old pew would be awesome.
I did that series of videos because people were interested, but I had one person who was nagging me forever because I'd said it before, you can live on $20 a person a week. And he was like, no, you can't, that's ridiculous. I spend that on one meal. I said, I can survive very nicely on $20 for me, just for me each week. And at the end of that little series I did, we had heaps of food left over. It's just one of those things that people have to take a conscious effort. I did it years ago for a guy, a mate of mine, who actually got fined for speeding or something, and he was in dire straits. He paid his fine, but he had no money to eat. He had $10. And I said, I want you to go down to this particular supermarket after 9 o'clock, and I want you to pick up a chicken. And in those days, chickens were like $7 cooked chicken, not during the day, and $2 at night time. So he picked up one of those. I said, while you're there, go to the greengrocer and say, have you got any what they call offs? That's what they used to call them in Australia, which means that they're getting a bit saggy on some parts. Otherwise, you just pull the outer leaf off.
That stew,
Yes,
hang on, Bergs asked a question, you didn't see it, sorry. He
Oh.
liked the vegetable stew you made with Australian beef. How did it taste? It was
Beautiful.
beautiful. It was
Well,
yum.
where I'm going with this was, I ended up buying a loaf of bread, and in those days it was something like
Oh,
40
cheap.
cents. So $2 for a chicken, heaps of veggies. And I showed him with the chicken in particular. We had, hang on, I've got to read this. I bought an old farmhouse there, refurbishing. Yeah, you'd spend years doing that, Ginger. But the whole process is where they got him to cut the chicken into 4. So there's 4 main meals there. I got him to take all the bones out of the chicken, and he bought some barley, and he had potatoes, and he had carrots. So he made a gallon of soup that he said was absolutely magnificent. I taught him, throw a bit of Worcestershire in there and a little bit of seasoning. And so in the end, this guy not only lived off $10 a week, he learnt the lesson to say, well, actually that stuff tasted good. And what it meant in the end is that he learnt a life lesson to say, well, I don't need to spend $10 a meal. This is going back in the 80s. So he then became, and you can say it's frugal if you like, but home-cooked food's magnificent.
Oh, Ginger, I'd love to see that. We'll have to go visit Ginger.
What you doing?
Well, she's got the old farmhouse she's done up.
Yeah, with a farmhouse, you're always doing
Hey,
something.
Shima.
Always doing something.
Shima,
Is Fuka here?
yeah.
Hello, Shima.
I just missed what your tip was, Shima. Get your chipped fruit.
Mel's just like me. She'll go down the supermarket with no intention of buying Tommy Hawk steaks. I'll guarantee she had no intention. But when she walked past, her head went zhuzhing, and she stopped and thought, I'm having them. Yeah, that's true, Bergs. I mean, I would do any sort of stew 3 to 3.5 hours, slow cooking.
Are you going to get milk meal? Are you going to you be back? Is that what you're saying?
She's going down looking for bargains. Now spit it out, woman. That's what you're doing. She's going down there with a butcher marking everything down. She'll come back with a cow and say, I put my camera on. But that's how you eat. You're dead right. We do the same.
I got an old, actually, the Sunday school I used to go to, Ginger. I was about 5 when you were made. Yes, please. When you were made to go to Sunday school. No, it was fun. The little chair, the little individual desks with the chairs and the lift up top. I got one of those from the Sunday school I went to and refurbished. I was 5 when I went there. I managed to get one as they were ripping the church down when I was 20 something. I'm now 56 and I have it here. And when I unpack it, I'll show you. It is so cute. Our dinner's done, Mel. Okay.
I'll quickly show them. I am making you a cuppa. But this is how Mel shops, and it's how I shop. I didn't go down to buy these today, but this is probably a 7 or 8 ounce Scotch fillet steak. And yes, it's only 20% off. Sometimes you get it 50% off. But I check the quality out to make sure it's good. Along with that steak, I'm going to have these mushrooms. 70% off. Nice sliced brown mushrooms, and they are good quality. There's no rubbish in there. So for about $6, I'm having steak and mushrooms.
Yeah, I think mine's got
I'll
an
just put them in here for a second.
I think mine's got an inkwell in it, Scarlett, from memory. I can't sort of get to it. I just love old stuff. It's like us doing the extension on the house. My kids like antiques. It's sort of, I've taught them as they grew up to appreciate old things, collect whatever, because I do it. And as much as they have a go at me, I know that there are some things they've liked what we're doing, because we're doing new and old. Like obviously it's a new build, the extension, but we've bought second-hand doors from an old school, and I mean an old school, the old solid wooden big thick doors with the old handles that I've got to try and find someone to restore actually. Still has the principal sign on it, and the other one has signs that I'm leaving on there that I'm going to put in the house with those signs on. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix match, but shabby chic I suppose you call it. I'm not one. I can be OCD in some things, but I don't care if things don't match. It's like I wear odd socks, which is probably absolutely put Milky in a frenzy. Sorry, Milky, but I wear odd socks. Sarah just got to catch up with the chat. I can't. Yeah, so I can't wait to dig that desk out. When I dig it out, I'll show you, Ginger. Yes. So I got a, and then of course I've got, my dad used to do, he was a blacksmith, wrought iron work. So I've got a tall lamp that he made, bless him, he's passed now, a candlestick holder. I've got his tables here, we're actually leaning on them now. He made the tables, wrought iron legs and forged the iron, that's the word I was trying to find, forged the iron. And a little table behind me, you know, probably can't see it, that Dad made, that I've got. And tools, old tools, I just love old tools as well. I've got a lot of Dad's tools. Some of them I use, some I just like because ornament. And keys, I know this is weird, but I collect old keys, you know? Old or new, unusual keys. Oh, you thought glass door knobs with diamonds. Yeah, the door handles on these old doors are ornate, but you could see the original.
Master, there's your beverage.
Oh, thank you. You can see the original locks, and then they, I don't know, years later put on different handles again. If I have my way, we'll get it refurbished and used them, but we'll see. Because like our old doors, they've got 2 different lock systems on them because they obviously changed them at the school.
I don't mind saving some of them, but the problem is some of them are damaged and they're not repairable.
Yeah.
Have you got the best recipe for beef stew? Lynn, I make it different every time, but it starts off pretty similar. Most of the time I'll seal the beef, whatever it is, or lamb, or whatever I'm cooking. It might even be bones, and I'll be sealing them as well. And then I take them out, and then I'll add a little bit more olive oil, and I'll add some onions and some garlic, and gently cook. You don't need to rush a stew. A lot of people want to go quick. Take your time. And then after you've got the onions going, and then what I do is I put in some of the root vegetables. It could be parsnip, it could be potatoes, it could be whatever I've got on hand. If I've got some spinach in the fridge, I'll cut that up and throw that in. I like stews to be, like when I cut the potatoes up, they're a spoonful. They're not a little bit, they're a bit bigger than a spoonful, so it's nice. And I take my time cooking the stew. And I always use a good beef stock, or I'll make my own beef stock. So, but you can use, people say, oh, can you use chicken stock in making beef stew? Yes, you do what you like. It's only a basis for the ingredients. And I like my stews, and so does my wife. I like my stews, so when you put your spoon on top of it, like my soups, I put my spoon on top of it, it will sit there. It won't float down to the bottom.
Yeah, I like
So it's thick, it's tasty, and it's cooked very slow. No matter what you make. Beef stew in its essence is pretty simple. It's beef and vegetables. We could talk about all the ingredients you could add to it. In the garden, you could add lots more, but don't over put herbs, too much herbs in cooking a stew is my advice.
They're talking about door handles.
Yeah, what I do with the meat, I'll seal it. Other words, it's sealed. Hello, Megan.
Hey, Megan.
And then it's the case of, it goes back nearly straight away after I put the stock in.
Camera on you. Your girlfriend's in the room.
What?
Megan, she's got to see ya.
Hello, Megan.
Blow her a kiss.
But yeah, it's just a time factor. If you've got, if you're in a big hurry, don't bother making a stew, because you need the time. You know, I've got this big Crusade, big blue pot my son gave me, and I've cooked things in there like chili beef, 4 or 5 hours, just ticking over on a very low flame, because what it does, it just emulsifies and just bubbles and squeaks, and the stew's no different. I would never leave a stew alone. Other people, you know, people say, I'll leave it and come back in 4 hours. I don't do that. I'll come back every 20 or 30 minutes, give it a gentle stir and taste, because that's the secret. Taste as you're going. The main ingredient I always put in, because I love it, is black pepper. Wife's not that keen on it, but I make sure it's not too much. Pepper just gives it a flavour, be it black pepper or paprika or smoked paprika. The secret of cooking is patience. You either cook, and this is true, all the cooks in here will know what I'm saying, you either cook very quickly, within 6 or 7 minutes you finish cooking, or you cook for a long time. There's very little recipes that are like an hour or 40 minutes. There are some, don't get me wrong, but the secret is you cook quickly. Stir fry is a great example. Or you cook slowly, because the slower you cook, the better taste you
Did you
get.
see what Mel wrote?
No, I don't see it all.
Right, she said, Mr. Seeds, I have a Thermomix and hubby gets cranks. I don't use it anymore.
I should get my daughter around, because she had a Thermomix, so excited. What, $500 or something? And she challenged me to make pumpkin soup. And I said, all right, well, we'll use the same ingredients. She said, okay. She started, I started, we were eating my pumpkin soup in 25 minutes. We were still waiting for the Thermomix to go ding. Anyway, we waited, and then we tried hers, and she turned around to me and said, yours is better. Same ingredients. So the methodology of chucking things in a container and this thing will cook it for you, it's never true. They are good machines, don't get me wrong, but they're not as efficient as you are, Mel or Scarlett. You are the Thermomix that makes your food taste good, not a machine. Microwaves, I never cook with a microwave. Maybe if I've made a stew and the wife wants a little bowl, she'll microwave it
To heat the leftovers.
and she'll eat it. I'll still use a pot, by the way, but she uses a Thermomix.
Sometimes you use
Actually, in Australia, there's been lots of injuries through the Thermomix.
a Thermomix. Just you chuck all the ingredients in ginger and it cooks, does everything for you, mixes. Cooks,
It's
whatever.
probably a type of pressure cooker is the best way to describe it, Mel, isn't it? Yes, and I bet both you and Scarlett do exactly what I do, as long as the meat's gone past that stage where it's still safe. You taste your food. You just keep tasting your food. And then you think, oh, I'm going to add more potatoes, or I'm going to add this, I'm going to add that. Because you have the complex taste buds and the sight of seeing the thickness and the consistency that a Thermomix machine never has. This machine just sits there and go, I'm doing my job. It's going well. Her soup was awful, and she said it was terrible. But it was exactly the same ingredients. And I was finished in 25 minutes, and she was finished in 45. Because she said to me, this thing will save me time. She threw it out, by the way, Mel. Doesn't use it. And Megan Fox is a cook too, by the way, guys. She's probably not a bit modest to tell you that, but she can cook. Yep, part of the tasting is in seeing the food. And if you just go flop, mind you, I mean, a bowl of stew is a bit hard to present. Maybe a little bit of sour cream and fresh parsley. Hello, Bucky. But there's a lot to be said about preparation. I will generally prep for 15 minutes and then I'll cook for 10. Do you know what I mean? Like with a stir fry. For those that are interested who have never seen it, on my channel you'll see me make a mushroom pancake. And it's done in the reverse method. Bit of butter, bit of olive oil in there, and then mushrooms. Big pan of mushrooms. Cook them down so they're, 70-80% cooked. Then I get my 3 eggs, mix them up in a bowl, whatever else I want to put in there, and pour it over top of the cooked mushrooms. Gently sauteing and moving the pan around, filling it in. And near when it's still a bit gooey, add the cheese. And my little secret, and I love the flavour, you know the dried shallots you can get, little crunchy dried onions. Brown onions definitely for me. And then I'll just sprinkle a bit of that over the cheese, and the cheese is melting into the gooey egg bit. And then you just flip it over, and what you've got presented is the mushrooms on the outside of the omelette embedded in the egg. Looks fantastic. And then when you cut it open, all that cheese oozes out with that onion.
Yeah,
it's a 7-minute process to cook it.
A slow cooker is good. You have had a slow cooker. I haven't used it in a while. Like you say, it's good, but I just don't like to leave anything on when I'm out of the house. So a slow cooker even only works for me if we're home. I'm like that, aren't I?
I have to tell you what her slow cooker is. It's me.
No, when I bought a proper slow cooker.
Yes, I know. But there is, if you want to watch that video I did on the mushroom, I think it just is mushroom omelette. Search it and you'll see the method that it's really simple. And believe me, it's very tasty. Always put a bit of butter with your olive oil though, because butter is flavour.
Oh, Megan.
What?
You had Megan at Gentle.
At Gentle?
Sing to her.
Hello,
Sing
Megan.
Her a song.
What are you wearing, Megan? Only you can make only you. Mushrooms are fantastic. I'm not keen, I mean, I'll eat them. You know when you go to a Japanese restaurant and you get all those different mushrooms, spongy looking ones, skinny ones with little heads on them, and I'll eat them. But I do just like the earthy taste of brown mushrooms. Swiss mushrooms in some people. And if you're lucky, like Scarlett in her farmhouse will probably find a few magic mushrooms as she floats across the paddock, picking them one by one. Hey man. Well, there are mushrooms you should not like, of course. I'm just about out of power again.
Yeah, I'm going to get it. Do you make stuffed mushrooms?
Mm-hmm.
Put it on your
Yeah.
lead.
I bet everyone's got their own recipe for stuffed mushrooms, but mine involves day-old bread. I tend to like pork mince, but if I've got a bit of beef mince, so it's fresh herbs, pork mince, day-old bed soaked in water, or milk, it's up to you. So it's just soggy but not drenching with it. And then basically I quickly sear the bottom of the mushroom, the big field mushrooms you get, just so they sag a little bit. Take them out, let them go cold. All right, so I'm prepping. Then I put a little bit of olive oil and usually flavouring, a bit like Worcestershire, just in the bottom of the mushroom. Because I forgot to tell you, as you all know, you shave out the middle of the mushroom so it's hollow. That goes in the mix as well. And then you put it all back in. It's like a dry, not crumbly, but it's not too firm because you don't want it rock hard. And then I'll put in the Gruyere, a bit of cheddar, a bit of salt and pepper, maybe a bit of smoked paprika on the very top, a little bit of fresh parsley. In the grill, with the heat coming down for about 15 to 20 minutes on about 180. And take them out as they're steaming and crunchy. Bacon, you can throw bacon in there too.
Sorry if I'm shaking the seeds phone.
So that's how I stuff my mushrooms. But I'm sure there are millions of ways to stuff a mushroom.
Can you pull your screen down for a sec to see if it's green
All right,
charging?
I've just got stand by, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to lose me. Houston, we're going around the dark side. That's exactly what I do, though, Mel. I mean, if I happen to have a little bit of parmesan, that'll go in there as well. You sort of go, yeah, that'll work. So it's not a recipe, and if you found a video with me saying a teaspoon, a tablespoon, I don't think it exists, because I go in my hand, I go paprika, yeah, about that much, black pepper, about that much, because you just know what works. But salt I rarely put in food. Like if you're cooking something with bacon, Mel says, look on Messenger.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire is...
Bucky was saying he loves his wife, but she can't pronounce Worcestershire. It took me
I
a
bet
long
she
time.
says Worcestershire.
Yeah, I'm surprised I could say it just now.
What's this here? Sauce. There you go.
Bucky at the messenger. Okay.
And if you're in England, you wouldn't actually say Worcestershire, would you?
Mel, is it a man in uniform or a naked man you sent me? Is it food porn?
But stuffed mushrooms are really good. Bucky, my pop told a funny story about how Worcestershire was named. There's a bit of a fight on in the Worcestershire world.
It's from Mel.
Yum, that looks nice. And that is, you've got Lee Perrins, which is well, to be honest with you, it's the true one. Nice, they're just those Tommy Hawks. Yummo. But Worcestershire, there's Holbrooks and there's Lee Perrins, and there's a bit of a war. But Lee Perrins is the oldest, but I do like the big Aussie Holborns. I just love that one. But that goes to my stews, soups. It's fantastic. It's just got a flavour edge. When I make homemade pies, I'll put a little bit of that in there as well, along with a little bit of HP sauce. The two ingredients that are... And I can tell people who are not cooks, if they want to braise, say, some cheap cuts of meat, all right? Well, this is an old method, all right? And it's the simplistic one for people who don't know. You get 1 cup. You half fill it with tomato sauce. I know this sounds weird. You half fill it with barbecue sauce. You pour that into the container. There's your steak and your onions. Maybe you cut a few onions up. So it's just tomato sauce and barbecue sauce. Then you add a cup of water. Give it a gentle stir. Put it in the oven, 170, 180. Forget about it. Come back in about an hour and a half. You've got very tender. You've got this gravy formulation between the blood out of the meat and the onions and potatoes if you put it in there. And all you've done is whacked it in the oven and just used half a cup of tomato, half a cup of barbecue, and then a cup of water. It's a braising stock.
Sometimes you add Worcestershire. You've done that for the kids.
Yeah, that's the one I teach people if they think all things are too hard. It's just a combination of flavours, as vinegar does as well, as corn flour does. But it's got a good taste. It's not how I would braise. I'd use beef stock, and I'd make a little bit of other bits and pieces in there. But for someone just learning, if you tell them half a cup of tomato, half a cup of barbecue, tip it in, and then a full cup of water, mix it all around, put some parsley flakes in, slice some onions up. If anyone likes braised steak and onions, I'll guarantee what I just told you works. Maybe a bit of black pepper. But it's one of those things, braised steak and onions in particular, and the secret is to use just as much volume in onions as you do steak. You don't have to cut up the steak. When you braise, it'll just fall apart anyway. But I like braised steak and onion the next day when it's all thick and cloggy on a piece of toast. Amazing. Yeah, I've never used V8 in cooking. It's just, I think there's other stuff in it, Scarlett. I'm sure it's good, But a lot of the times I've had V8, there's an extreme amount of celery. I put celery in soups and stews, but only a minimal amount. Celery has a natural salt content. Different type of sodium, but it's a salt all the same. But I don't mind. One of my favourites to have a nibble on in the middle of summer. Nice fresh baby celery, you know, the pale one, with some cream cheese.
Yes, I can't.
A little bit of black pepper.
I don't like anchovies.
Some people put peanut butter on it, but I can't do that. But cream cheese and celery, brilliant. Liver and onions, I grew up with liver and onions. You can cook liver to taste like steak. It will always be liver. It's how you braise it and what you braise it in, and what Scarlett said before. A bit of vinegar takes a bit of the tannin out of the meat. And you seal liver just like you would a steak, and you slow braise it for a long time. And when you take it out with the gravy and the onions, you cut it, you'll swear it's steak. Well, it is meat, but it is liver. And one of my favourites, my granddad used to make bacon, liver and onions. But he'd always have cooked the liver the night before in the method I just told you, and then cook bacon and onions, and then add a bit of the meat, a bit of the liver in there, put on a piece of toast. I'm pretty sure most of you, if you had to, would eat anything. Think of the worst food in the world that you say, oh, I'd never eat that.
Anchovies.
Yep, if you were hungry, you'd find a way to eat the bugger. You may do this, but you'll eat it. So you brown it in vinegar and slow cook. No, you don't brown it. Sorry, I didn't tell you, Lynn. With liver, what I would do, I'd use a little bit of apple cider vinegar. If I was going to do it, I'd buy a bit of liver and I'd pat it down dry, put it in a container and add apple cider vinegar, just a little bit.
I've never heard of any of that. That mum used to just fry it with onion. And
Yeah, you don't need to use the vinegar method.
she used to cook it quick.
It's the slow cooking of organs that makes them palatable. If you've ever had a pie in Australia, and Mel will back me up here, there's all sorts of organs in there. You just don't see them.
Oh, Mel, have some marshmallows for us.
Has she been back from the shop already?
Yeah, she's going to do some marshmallows on the fire.
Yeah, lovage is a bit like that. A lot of people, if they, it's hard to explain it, if you knew the joy and satisfaction that you do by growing some of your own food, forget that you can grow all of it. You can, but forget that. Just grow some of the foods you eat yourself. There's an enormous satisfaction in harvesting them and eating them.
Mel said then, we don't talk about the pie thing. We eat it and enjoy it. That's exactly right, Mel.
Yeah.
But I like Herbert Adams make pies, or what's the other brand you sometimes buy?
I can't remember. 4 and 20 you like the one with the cheese in it.
Yeah, what's the brand you've been buying? Herbert Adams. And
Yeah,
there's
Herbert
another
Adams
one.
is
They're-
nice.
They're expensive.
But I
though.
make my own pies. If you Google on my channel, Pot Pies, I made pies once about 5 inches high in cake containers. You can do anything. Some of the most simplistic meals I like though are stews and soups. Nice piece of steak. Scarlett practices ancient medicine. That's where she gets naked and paints herself in goat's blood.
See you, Ginger.
Wears a bone through your nose.
Love you, Ginger. Ginger wrote in capital letters she loves you. Because we know what you
I like you a
thoughts.
lot, Ginger. I really do.
He loves you, Ginger. I'll say it for him.
Unless you're in my arms and we both had a few drinks, I can only say I like you. Here's an old one for you, Scarlett, and for other people, if you believe me or not. Natural soap. Now, you can still buy natural soap, okay? People say, oh, where do you get that? Just go to a chemist or go to somewhere that sells natural soap. So you can buy that. And if you shave some off into a bowl and mix it with raw sugar, so you end up with this sort of very thick paste, okay? Well, when I was a kid, and when my great-grandfather was a kid, they used the same method with a poultice. They'd get a little wad of cloth, and they put this mixture on it, and then they put it on where you've got anything septic, on your arm or your foot or your knee, you know, pus coming out. What that does, just soap, natural soap and sugar, it draws the pus out. And I'm not making that up. You can go to a chemist, get all sort of chemicals you like, but natural soap and raw sugar. Natural soap I don't think has lye in it, Scarlett. But anyway, what I'm saying is what you do, it draws out the infection. It's true. I remember as a kid I had terrible on my knee. I'd grazed it, you forget about it, and then it's a bit sore, rubbing on your shorts, and then you have a look at it and it's like a big pus ball. Well, my mum never used, there's two methods. One is to scrape the scab and all the pus off, which is not a good method. The other, she just leave it all there and she put this great wad on there, and overnight you take it off and there's all the scab and all the pus, and you've got a clean, fresh wound, if you like, there. But it's true. But there are natural soaps in some plants. We've got about 4 varieties in Australia. A lot grow down near the river, actually. You can actually scrub in water and you'll actually get a froth of soapy, well, it's not soap, but it's the process of the plant extraction. Lots of oils from plants are used in different medicines as well. So there's nothing magical in what I just told you about simple natural soap and raw sugar, because it's been used for hundreds of years in my family. Literally, hundreds of years. Best we can date it back to is about 1720. And it was used on horses, first of all, believe it or not. When horses cut themselves up against a tree or a fence, they get infection. And they used to put a big swath around them, and they put sugar and soap. And so it would draw out that. And another thing they used to do, which I'm not that keen on a raw wound after you've got it all clean and the pus is gone, vinegar. Vinegar on a raw wound. But it was used for a reason. Whiskey was far too expensive. And another thing that is true, and you may not like it, but urine is sterile. True. So if I'm out with Scarlett and she's cut herself and she's got a bit of a wound on her knee, it's not getting well, we've been there for a couple of days, I say, Scarlett, I'm only doing this for your own good. And it is sterile, but she might not like it. Household cleaners, I'll mention them. Vinegar, 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 and newspaper.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, usually the kidneys, Fukushima, are the signal men of the body. In other words, there might not be nothing wrong with your kidneys, but the functioning of the delivery of things and cleanse of the liver and blah, 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 the kidneys are usually the first sign that there's something wrong. It's usually the first organs that start shutting down when you're going to pass away. Your kidneys will stop operating. But we all die eventually. Something to look forward to, I suppose. Always look on the bright side of life. Lemon's good, it is. But if you've got a little sore near your eye, I suggest you don't use lemon. You ever cut a lemon up and it's gone...
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yep. In fact, if you make a 50 of white vinegar and put it... What do you normally put? Like, your cotton sheets get all bubbly. You get those little bubbles on your cotton sheets?
on your flannelette sheets.
On your flannelette sheets, your winter sheets. Well, if they're a bit daggy, you can put them in the washing machine by themselves and put half a cup of white vinegar.
You've got to do that the first wash.
Yeah, but you can do it when you first buy them. It stops all the nonsense occurring most of the time. There's nothing worse than, you've got all these little dags on your flannelette sheets. Same for flannelette pyjamas or nighties.
Milky, I wouldn't use newspaper to clean things these days because the print comes off too easy. Newspapers these days are not like they were as I grew up. Because my mum used newspaper to clean. You'd get a little bit of ink on your black, but hardly any. But these days, I won't even... When I've packed house up a lot in the last couple of years, I won't use newspaper anymore.
Tip of the week, and I've said this before, like when you buy, and Mel would know, you get 4 kilos of potatoes for 99 cents. They're on special. Well, they're still okay, but they need to be used in a couple of days, for sure. I would actually boil the whole lot up so they're al dente. So they're not quite cooked, but you could put a needle all the way through them. So what you do is you cook them and then you just let them cool down and put them in the fridge. They are magnificent for all sorts of things. You can pull out half a dozen and make potato salad, maybe egg and potato salad. You can take some and cut them in little slices and cook them in olive oil and butter. Unbelievable. Or you can actually just cut them in half, put a little bit of butter oil on top of them, put them in the oven. But what that means is because you've cooked them, they won't spoil. So you can have cooked potatoes in the fridge. It's about 7 days. It's okay, but we'd eat them within 5. But you don't have to do anything special. But what it means is that you boil them. You might use some that night. You might make mash out of them. But I always leave the skin on, which doesn't bother me. But you can do everything with them. You can add them to your stews. I wouldn't freeze them after I've cooked them, but I certainly would use them within 3 or 4 days. In other ways, you cut them into wedges, put all your sprinkly bits on, whatever you like. There you go. Because they've already been par cooked, put in the oven probably 15 minutes,
Yeah,
get that crispy bit.
What's stovies? What's stovies, Lynn?
Stove.
No, stovies. S-T-O-V-I-E-S.
Don't know, sounds nasty.
Stovies
Is it a communicable disease?
It's a Scottish
Have you got
staple.
stovies? Yeah, I don't know where I got it from. Having sex with a potato.
I
But
know all
one of the
these
things
different
about what I just said about the potatoes, I wouldn't normally cook 4 kilos of potatoes, which is 10 pounds. But if they're like a couple of dodgy ones, and now I think I'm going to do the whole lot, and I get all the good ones and boil them, and that way, yeah, in other ways, just like that, because it's cold but it's cooked, and you slice it, you just cook the onions and the potato. Oh,
Oh, yum.
bit of bacon maybe chucked in there.
Yeah, the ink just comes off.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest with you, newspapers are still produced in this country, but in very limited amounts. I would have been the person that would have got a newspaper every morning going to work. I haven't bought a newspaper in 20 years. Because of this, I can just go, oh, news, yeah, okay.
Well, it's more the fact how much ink comes off, even from a local paper. So, yeah, Toad in the
Well, I
Hole.
love Toad and Hole. Mrs. is not that keen on it, but I do like Toad and Hole. And in my eyes, you've got to use a mixture of the beef pork sausage, not just the beef or
Yeah,
just
see,
the
I'm
pork.
not keen on pork sausages.
Beef pork sausage. And there's 2 ways of doing it. I actually cook mine nearly finished. Then I make the batter. The sausages are cooled down a little bit by then. Whack them in. If people want to know what the batter is in a Toad and a Hole, it's simply Yorkshire pudding batter. That's all it is. So eggs, flour, you know what I mean? And then you put it in the oven for about, I think I cooked mine for about 25, 30 minutes. And up it comes. And it's like a cake with sausages in them. And you must have onion gravy with Toad and Hole. It's law. You don't have it, you get arrested.
Yes, I love the Yorkshire pudding.
Well, the best Yorkshire pudding that I think is to make is get your muffin tins with about, say, 6 muffin holes in there.
Truly.
Definitely vegetable oil in there, in the oven, and you pull it out, it's smoking. Oh, geez, be careful down. Then just tip your batter in, straight back in the oven within, 2 minutes? And they come up like this, and then after you leave them out, they go sunk in the middle, which is great, because that's where you can pour all the gravy. Yeah? We've got so much to share as far as ideas about cooking and growing and produce and what to do with it, that we should somehow get someone better than me have a... See, I've had Alfred Hitchcock's Yorkshire recipe. Is that where you stir the mixture like this? Well, we've got so much to share. We've got between us hundreds of years of knowledge in doing things slightly different. But collectively, we've got a great deal of knowledge. And I believe that this format, the internet, was meant for that reason, is to share knowledge, like online homesteaders, if you like, without getting all dramatic and putting over the braces and straw. But there's so much to share. Now, I could share something with you that you would never think of doing, and you won't do it. But someone else in the group might think, I'll give that a go. Like if I said make, hello Bully, if I said make bread and butter pickles. Now a lot of people say I love them, but I don't know how to make them. And it is a sort of process.
Hey, Bully.
But on my channel there's a video how to make bread and butter pudding, bread and butter pickles, and they are superb. That's right, Scarlett. It's a choice. I don't go to certain places because I choose now not to go because it's nonsense. But even with Awesome, I say to Awesome, sometimes you get a few ratty ladies on there and I just disappear. She says, I know. So you can't do it. And Nicole's the same. She'll have a nice hangout and then there'll be a bit of this happening. I'm going, bye. But at least they're tolerable when it comes to those channels that all they want to do is hate on each other. I do not want to be there.
Okay, Bully, just behave yourself. So, Bully, how many videos have you got up?
Oh, can we go to your channel and watch the car video or the... I'm serious, Bully. I'm looking forward to the chili video. I make chili, and if you make one, I'm interested in how you do it.
Yes, I will have to try that carrot gratin.
No, one thing you can go to the bank, you can probably get money, Scarlett, but there is not a time bank. You can't go to the bank and say, look, I'd like another 30 years. Is that okay? What? You can't give me 30 more years? Okay.
It's too early. You've had nearly a week to do these videos, Bully.
Yeah, you've had a week to do them. I should show Bully what we got today. They're just the right size for Bully, actually. I'll show you in a sec, Bully. We picked 2 of them up today. And they're little beauties. Well, here we go. Turn the camera around. Look what we picked up, Bully. Oh, not a very good picture, but they're park benches. So if you ever come over and you want somewhere to stay, mate, we've got 2 of them. It's a bit dark, you can't really see them.
It is a bit dark.
They are really nice. They're good for 2 bums and you have a bit of a gap between, so they're not the big 3.5, 4 footers. These are only 3.5 foot, that's all, but they're really cool. They're well made, cast iron.
They look nice.
And the actual metal has been sandblasted and then recoated. So yeah, we're really pleased with those. Really pleased with those, and they were not cheap, but the timber alone would have been about $100 for each of them. So we paid 140. Yeah, being only 3 foot long, you could stretch out on them, Lynn, fully.
Hey, V-Mac.
G'day, Big V.
Did you see the park benches, V-Mac? Bucky found a
Yeah,
cup
Bucky,
that
this guy had the Jarrah because he has a whole warehouse of stuff. So it cost him next to nothing for the Jarrah. But if I went and bought it, these Jarrah boards are 75 or 3 inches by 1. And there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 meters in lineal length, and they're about, it's close to about $18 a lineal meter. So about $100 just in the timber. And he not only sandblasted, he diamanted the
and it's got
the
marine,
frames and then painted it with a special
marine
black.
outdoor
And yeah,
stuff.
so he probably made $80 out of each one because he had the timber on hand. But
It's a
I
time.
couldn't make it. We paid 140 each. I couldn't make it for that price. I mean, if I was lucky to get high quality bench ends, I'd still be paying $70, $80 for the bench ends.
Because we all do that, VMAC. When
What's
you can sleep in, you wake up early. VMAC said she's just got home from the market. Why do I get up early on a Saturday then, rather than on a work day?
When I phoned this guy up, bloody cold.
There's water there.
When I phoned this guy up, the ad was on a local thing called Gumtree. That's what we do in Australia. It's a Gumtree, and it's a selling site and a buying site. But I called him up after a couple of minutes. When he delivered them today, because I only called him yesterday, he said I could have sold 100 of these. He just got non-stop calls from people saying, I'll give you more. So we did get a bargain, and they're really good, and we're thinking about putting them down the back Probably near where the pool area will be, the paved area, and a bit of a garden. Kijiji, I've heard of that, yeah. But it's all mainly local stuff. Like this guy was only 15 minutes away, so he kindly dropped them off. I slipped him the cash and we're happy. I think we should all chip in, and because it will help him, and send IRC Bully to a Celine Dion concert that goes for about 8 hours. He can sit on the front row and she can look down at him, give him a bit of a wave, maybe even backstage, you know, wine and crackers. Could change the man for the better. But we tend to take our time in getting stuff. You got a cat down the back?
Yeah, something down there. Something's
We've got a
rustling.
cat down the back that I call Russell. Because every now and then, you hear a rustle down the back.
Oh, it's the birds in that tree.
It's so funny though, I think I told the story, we put up new fencing down the back. Celine free, yeah. And she's Canadian. You won't be able to see the fence, I don't think. But anyway, it's 7 foot high. And when we first got here, it was only like 4.5 feet. And it was asbestos, so we had that removed and had this colorbond fencing put up. But the neighbourhood cats didn't realise that the fence had gone from 4.5 feet high to 7. So for the first 2 weeks, all we heard out the back it was ka-thump, ka-thump, because they couldn't jump. They were
They
just,
still can't. They still find
every
holes.
now and then you hear a cat go, meow, thump.
What are they going to do when we actually make it hole-proof? Because when we get our little puppy dogs, we don't want them getting out. The cats are just going to get stuck.
Well, we'll have our own cat as well. Thinking of names to call our dogs and cats, what do you think? Any ideas at all? Probably going to be a Chihuahua involved. And maybe, I don't know, Great Dane, because they make good pairs.
No, it will be small dogs.
Anyway,
That don't
2
lose a
small
lot of
dogs
hair.
and a cat. Any name ideas? Celine Dion has a unique place in history, because if it wasn't for that one song, even though she has sung many great songs, if it wasn't for that one song associated with the movie Titanic, she would never be as big as she is now. And that's not being mean or cruel.
Yeah, Cupcake and Jelly Bean's cute, but you're right, Lynn. Celine Dion has changed tremendously, and it's amazing.
Jelly Bean, that's a good name.
It's amazing what makeup does, because we saw it the other day on TV. Celine Dion, remember?
Yes,
In the car, she
with James Corbyn in the carpool.
she looked horrible, but
Well, not horrible, because she
But
looked older than her age.
And then on the concert,
Egbert, might call one of my chickens Egbert. It's a good idea.
Egbert for the chicken. Yeah. I call people Cupcake. I like that name, Cupcake.
She's always been like that, and I don't suggest for one moment she's anorexic, because she's very thin-framed anyway.
I
but
think she's actually ill. I think she had an illness.
could have done.
Yeah.
Baseball stadiums.
Dagman called Cream Puff. That's cute.
Well, she did like older men. Unfortunately, of course, her husband's passed away, but he was quite much older than her, I believe, by 15 or even 20 years. Well, very close to that anyway. Caesar's not thin. Yeah, I'm not thin, and I'm not, definitely not obese, because my doctor tells me I'm not. I could probably lose 3 or 4 pounds, but it's winter. I'm putting on a bit of a coat.
You're not fat. You're teddy bear shaped.
We could start the room, because it's true. Now, just overnight, my wife noticed that we have crop circles.
Oh, yeah.
You see them?
Yes, we have crop circles. in
And
the
we've
concrete.
seen hundreds of small aliens around the place.
Hold your camera up a bit so you get
Now,
a
I call
bigger
these
perspective.
the black crop circles. So they're from a different planet, because over here, we've got the sandy coloured crop circles. You see that? It's amazing. You saw it here first on Channel Seeds.
Can we get the chook right?
Seeds ever seen anyone else? I've seen something I can't explain, Bully, in the sky. That's what I can tell you. Actually, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
they're good
Tudor. I
names.
like the name Tudor.
What is it?
well-
They're actual ants.
No, Bully's asking what I saw in the sky. I saw 3 objects moving at an incredible speed, do acute turns, not just right angles, but nearly back on themselves, at speeds I couldn't understand. And the reason why it was more pronounced for me is that I was in a valley. So there was a mountain ridge on one side and a mountain ridge on the other. And this occurred within the mountain ridge.
Yeah, but you weren't the only one who saw it.
No, I wasn't the only one.
Someone
So can I
filmed it.
explain what it is? No. I can tell you what I saw, and that's what I saw. Lasted for about 12 or 13 seconds. Incredible speeds.
Ridge is a cute name.
Do I believe in aliens? Bully, we are the aliens.
I mean, alien, what? It's just a name. I mean, you say the word alien, or if you say you believe in aliens, some people will think you're mad and they look at you like, what? But it's just a word. We are not the only living thing.
Let me just test Bully. Bully, how many types of humans do you think there have been throughout time? You can Google if you like. I'll give you that. You can Google. But off the cuff, how many species of humans do you think have been on this planet? Not even close when you say 3. I want you to Google it. Species of human-like on this planet.
We've got other dimensions. There's other dimensions not far. I mean, if people think...
I don't know the full number, Bucky, but it's extraordinarily
Yeah.
large in regards to the species. And when we say the species human, we've got to work within the homogeneous, the range of humanoids.
How naive do you think us humans are to think we are the only things, humans, whatever you want to call us, spirits having a human experience or whatever, to think
Yeah.
that we're the only ones?
I thought it was about a dozen scale of memory. But it's extraordinary. I mean, some of them have only died out in the last 500,000 years. There's about 5 that died out during that process. They believe it was definitely an ice age, because we've had many that
Hey,
did
Leroy.
the damage.
That's right. You know, there's probably other people, us, in another dimension, living a different life, saying exactly the same things right now. We can't be the only
Are
things.
you trying to explain to me that there could be another dimensional RC Bully?
And yeah, another seeds.
Probably wears a blue tutu.
Hey,
Welcome back, mate.
welcome back.
But yeah, it's interesting to talk about the fact of humanity, because that's a different thing from species. All of us have a level of humanity. In other words, we have kindness, we have hate, we have love, and all of the species of humans through history have shown all of those traits. Just because we actually survived as Homo sapiens, it's an evolutionary thing. So it's not as if we were the first. We weren't. It's like if someone said to you, oh, the Neanderthals died out. Not really true. Because we have Neanderthal, 100% Neanderthal DNA. We have that evidence. And every one of you has some Neanderthal DNA in you. Yes, so they had a bit of an encounter. So it's true, and there are other species that we've also been aligned with. So we're a mixed-match podge of humanity. Even you, Bully. I mean, you've probably got a lot more than a Neanderthal than I have, I'd imagine, Bully. That's true. Absolutely true, Bucky. particularly those in the deep desert in the west. No, that's not true, really, because of the process of evolution, Scarlett. A person born in the United States now has some DNA from that Neanderthal. They do.
I'm European. I'm, how do you say it? My grandmother was a pure, or whatever you want to call people, purebred, whatever, gypsy. Both my parents, full Germans.
I'll give you the example. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
That's it.
I'll give you an example, guys. I mean, I'm going to say all of us in this room now are visiting Earth from another system, and we're coming down. Now, half of us go around that side of the world and the other half go around that side of the world, and we mingle with the populations of the Earth. I would guarantee you, when we reported back to the mothership, we would discern that there are 30 or 40 species of humanoids on Earth. Because you look at some of the Pitmanjaras in the north of Australia that are only 3 foot tall. You look at some of the Swedish people that are 6'5" and built like... We would literally say to our leader, we think there's about 30 species on the planet. Why am I saying that? Because if you stand 100 Chinamen up against 100 Viking type people, they look totally different. So as an alien, we'd say, oh, there's many species of these things on the planet.
Hey, keeping, yeah, they are nice benches. We pinched them from the local park off the homeless. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Now, they're only about 3 and a bit foot long, but like I say, the man in the van can stretch fully out on those, so that's good. Just in case you need somewhere to live after his penitentiary time in the Canadian system. But it doesn't matter whether we are the aliens, because if you want to go historically, archaeologically, maybe we've been around a few million years. Yeah.
But isn't it interesting what everybody's background is? Like I said, my dad, full German parents, German ancestry. His father married a full-blood gypsy, which that was... So Dad's got German and, I don't know, what were the gypsy? I can't lost the name.
Romani.
Romani.
But that's an Eastern European. It's like they mixed with Mongols and Chinese.
I know, but it's interesting, really. I mean, Mum tried to hide that fact because she was embarrassed of the fact.
What Scarlett was saying about genetics, it is fascinating and scary in the same breath, because we all know the talk about living on other planets is quite frequent these days, and it will happen. I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime, but it will happen. But I wonder whether that, because of the different environments that people have to go and live in, whether that there'll have to be generations of genetic modification, say to prevent radiation sickness, to prevent becoming sterile and not being able to produce.
I'm only getting deep
I
now.
think we will see in the next 30 to 40 years genetics used on peoples that are going to go to other planets to help them survive. What will definitely happen is that genetics will change anyway. If you take humans, put them on Mars, and you go 10 generations, if they can last that long, genetically the bodies will change to suit as best they can the environment, because that's fact. That's what we do. We modify our species, modifies to suit the environment.
Yeah, well, what's that called? Not
Evolution, literally.
evolution, yeah.
They're that close in certain areas, and I'm not trying to get anyone excited because it's a very serious topic, that genetics can probably in the future eliminate cancer.
Sometimes I can't understand Fukushima's writing. Sorry, Fukushima.
And that's true. They've got to the point where they can genetically change our species to prevent cancer. But I would prefer it could cure cancer. You see where I'm going with this? In other words, in genetically changing the species, cure the disease. But maybe it's a genetic solve. Maybe that is the answer.
Oh, God, Bucky.
Cancer gets most of us, believe it or not, in one form or another. Cancer doesn't generally kill you. It's not on your death certificate. It will show you had cancer. It'll be pulmonary failure, it'll be a heart attack, it'll be renal failure.
Lynn asks, what's your opinion on Planet X story?
Well, we don't know enough about planets. There could be billions of Planet X's. There could be one hurtling through our universe at such a speed we won't see us hit us. We meander through the universe. We never spin around in the same place twice. And people say, no, that's not true. Yes, it is true. The whole galaxy is moving. So in a time factor, the Earth literally can never be in the same place it was once before.
I have to get my charger.
Proteins are certainly one of the things that indicate that the genetics of one person's body can't handle types of proteins. That's true. And there's a protein deficiency in full-blood Australians with their liver. They can't handle sugar at all. And many of them die from liver failure. And yes, people can say it's the alcohol they drink, but it's literally their body cannot process, because they've been 50,000 years living by themselves here, and then we come over with a bucket of sugar and beer. Same with Native Americans. I'm sure it's very similar. Okay, what's your answer to the pics of other planets in the sky? Well, I do believe that if you fired a gun, you'd never reach the outer part of any part of the universe. It expands so quickly, the bullet couldn't keep up. And I don't believe there's any conspiracies about a flat Earth, for example. I've been very high in aeroplanes, and there's definitely a curvature. Now, if it is a flat Earth, it's well designed, but the only problem is that would mean that the Arctic and the Antarctic are joined. So there's just a ring of ice. So you would literally think if you got to the ring of ice, you'd fall off. But it doesn't happen. I'm not knocking anyone who actually believes in the flat Earth. I just don't believe in it. I had arguments with one bloke for years because he kept saying, no, dark side of the moon's always dark. I said, it's not. That's not true. He said, yeah, it's always dark. You only get to see this side. I said, yeah, but when the moon rotates around the Earth, the other side gets the sun. He goes, no, it's always dark, which is not true. The Chinese at the moment are on what we call the dark side of the moon. What it literally means is the moon doesn't rotate. It orbits, but it doesn't rotate. But there isn't a dark side at all. There's a dark side on both sides.
There's a dark side to Boyd.
There's a very dark side to Boyd.
RC Bully came from the south side of the moon. What?
That's a Pink Floyd album, Bully.
When asked why are they spraying stuff in the sky?
Do you have evidence to that fact, Lynn? Because I've seen loads of evidence. And I've seen the particle reports in regards to aluminium and all those sort of things. But when it comes down to if they were trying to kill us, Lynn, there's far more efficient ways to do it. If me and you, Lynn, and we wouldn't do it, but hypothetically, went with a bucket of cyanide to one of the major dams and inlets to a water supply to a major city, we can kill probably 5 million people. Far more easier ways to kill people than chemtrails and all these things they put in our food, which aren't good for us, I admit.
I don't know. People
Yes,
say they're
Herculaneum
spraying.
and Pompeii. Fascinating. Actually, Herculaneum hardly ever gets a mention, Scarlett, which is a shame. You know, the story of Pompeii comes from the General Pompey, who went to Egypt eventually because he was fighting Julius Caesar, who crossed the Rubicon and declared civil war. And Pompey fled to Spain and then eventually to Egypt, and he asked the young king for help. And the young king was pretty smart. He cut Pompey's head off. But that's the name of the city, because he was a great general in his own right. Just in Egypt, they cut his head off. But it is interesting to accept the fact that we don't know stuff, and when we die, we still won't know stuff. But if you think about what's happened over the last 100 years, the equivalent of our age back 100 years ago, we didn't know nothing. We know a great deal more now.
Yes, you can see in the eyes of a baby if they're an old soul. If you've looked at a newborn baby and think, my goodness, that's an old soul, you can just see it. There's the old saying, the eyes are the window to the soul.
Well, there is no argument, and I've said this before, that even if you believe in a faith, a God, be it whatever God that is, and that's your faith, or you only believe in evolution and you're an atheist, if we all go back in time, every one of us are brothers and sisters based on religion and evolution. That fact cannot be denied. Yep, that's true. The Black Plague is quite fascinating in regards to people who didn't get affected at all. Unfortunately, Bucky, some of them in certain villages were burnt because they thought they were witches. Isn't it terrible?
But
They're
there's-
immune to it, and they think, the bloody witches
But
burn them.
there's people nowadays that are a carrier of some diseases or disease, as I say, that don't get it, but they carry it, and then other people get it. You know what I mean?
Well, like I say, my feeling on faith is I will never attack anyone's faith at all. Would never even think of doing that. But I certainly wouldn't agree with the fact of religion, because it's institutionalized and there's a horrific history of organized religion killing millions of people. So it's not a good thing.
You're immune to poison ivy. That's like some people when they've had chickenpox. What's the saying? Because shingles is associated with chickenpox. If you've had chickenpox, you're supposed to apparently not get shingles, but I know someone that actually got it. And then they say you're only supposed to get chickenpox, once? I've had chickenpox 3 times. The last time was 3 years ago. 2 years ago I got chickenpox.
Yeah. There is one alarming thing that's happening in my country right now, is that we normally have about 500 deaths a year from the common flu, the virus, if you like. 500. Well, we're looking at having over 8,000 so far this year. So that's a multiple of about 25,000%. Now, is that unique just to Australia, that the flu is killing more people here and not elsewhere? No, it's all around the world. And the biggest killer on this planet on any time has always been influenza. Always. You can talk about the Black Plague, you can talk about any disease you like, but the common flu has killed more people. The Spanish flu, which was from 1916, killed more people than the First World War, and there was an incredible amount of people killed in the First World War. The Spanish flu, at sometimes scarlet, has been a conspiracy, let's be honest. But the thing about bacteria and viruses is that they always change. No, I do not ever take the vaccination. I don't, because the percentage chance of actually hitting the virus that you've got the needle for is so low. That's the only reason. I do eat a lot of onions and garlic, and I have had a cold for about 5 or 6 days.
Working in the nursing home, I have no choice. You've got to have that flu needle every year.
There's all types of stories about certain people in regards to viruses and flus. There's even the old ring around the rosies, a pocket full of posies, and we all fall down. What was that about? The pox?
Leroy. That's my chicken.
I like that, Bucky. A pocket full of shawarmas. And he all fell down. Yes, but there's 2 reasons why they do that, Lynn. I understand that if I had children, and I'm putting myself in a hypothetical, that were vaccinated, and then there was 3 or 4 more children came to school not vaccinated. Now, believe it or not, I'd be concerned about the ones that are not vaccinated. However, I don't believe in vaccination. I'm giving you a hypothetical of why people do what they do and governments do what they do.
Well, that's you. You were vaccinated. You had your kids. Our kids were vaccinated. The schools in Australia won't accept them in the school unless they're vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, the law in Australia is that you can actually lose benefits. Your kids may be rejected at a school, but you don't get thrown in jail. You still have that choice. That's the big one for me, Lynn Russell, is autism and food allergies. Now, Scarlett's not a young chicken like I aren't, and we remember that when we were kids, I never knew of an autistic child. I knew of a sickly child out of about 1,000 kids, and kids had colds and flus and broke legs and arms, but no one had nut allergies at all. I'm talking the 1960s. 50 years on, it's an epidemic of autism. It's an epidemic of food allergies.
It's to the point.
And me, it all boils down to one thing. You are what you eat.
It's to the point that some schools, they stipulate what the child is allowed to take to eat at school. They're not. Some schools say you're not allowed to bring nuts. You can't bring peanut butter sandwiches. Like the school my grandson goes to, they can take what they want, and there's a list of kids in each classroom, and every child is made aware what these different children have allergies to or can have, and they just aren't allowed to sit with them. They have to wash their hands before and after they eat. The kids are made to do all this. They are made to stay away while they eat. Yeah, it's really weird.
I hear what you're saying, Bucky, but it's not true. Because statistics prove that's not the case. Autism has had a rapid increase since 1970s. Rapid increase. Even though some of the children prior to that may have been missed in the diagnosis, the number from 1970 to now is staggering. Sorry, Leroy. It's staggering. In other words, the scientific fact, when it was first suggested that there was things like ADH and there was things like a scale of autism. We've got a family member who has autism, and he has the different one. He is quite brilliant, but it's autism the same. But it wasn't common. There was, someone put it in there. There were mongoloid, as they were called then. There were dwarfs. These are all oddities. Like, there was very few. But I never ever, and this is one that you've got to take into the spoonful I'm trying to feed you, is I never ever knew of any child with a nut or allergy like that. Today, in Australia, it's 3 in 10 kids have an aversion to different types of things like that, based on the fact we've been feeding them additives, colourings, you name it. I could keep going on. You know where I'm going with this. That did not exist in my food when I was young. And I'll point back to what I said. You are what you eat. And if your immune system breaks down, or is confused, or is highlighted, like this nut allergy that's happened, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Did not
true.
exist when I was young.
When I remember going when I was at school, and I mean we're talking hundreds of kids in the school that you knew and hung out with and whatever. It was rare. Things have changed. Everything does a full circle, I suppose.
There's a leading doctor in the UK, and there are 2 in America, who insist children with these allergies should be introduced to those foods minutely and build up over a period of time,
That's what they're doing, yeah.
because what it does, it actually then gets their immune system working to that effect. Not a whole bunch of peanuts, but what they're saying is that if your immune system's been depleted to the point that these things attack you, there has to be a reason for it. So you don't ignore them and don't not have peanuts, even though some kids and people die. But what it boils down to is that it's our immune systems that have changed.
But look, with dentists, for example, like when I was growing up, there was mercury in the fillings. Well, nowadays they're scrambling to take. If you go to the dentist now, the first thing they want to do is take out your old fillings, if you've had mercury, which we recently had done, and replace with modern fillings that don't contain mercury.
Yeah, but one of the things that is being done, and guys, if you want to go into a bit of Google on this next subject, it's very valid in what we're talking about right now. There's Indian doctors that actually first fired this up, and now it's happening in the US and it's happening all around Europe and Australia, where they get people who have good immune systems and they go into their gut and remove, if you like, feces, and they cultivate that and they get the enzymes from there and they put it into people who have very poor immune systems into their gut, and believe it or not, it helps them. So what I just said about my immune system born in the 50s is different than a child's of today. They use that bacteria in my gut to give to the child, and then the child's reproductive immune system takes on board the manufacture of the properties that were in my stomach. Now you can Google that and you can look around. It's a fascinating process that shows that because we come from a different time period and we had all these things go past us, we had all these diseases, there was diphtheria, there was smallpox, and all these things that we were immune to because of our genetics at the time. In the kids of today, with the diets they have, they don't get processed through that. And just to finish on that note, when a woman has a cesarean, okay, it's a necessity in some cases, don't get me wrong. But because the child does not pass through the vaginal channel, it doesn't actually get the bacteria that are in there
to protect it.
that actually protect the child. And
them,
I'm not making that up. Okay? I'm not making that up. Being born through the vagina, literally, the woman gives the child, as it leaves, the protections that the body needs. Coming through cesarean, which is not natural birth, means you bypass all of that. And so if you want to Google those two things, bacteria from the gut of old people like me is helping people with allergies today. And the other is that when a child is born through a cesarean and doesn't pass through that channel, it doesn't get the bacteria that help it.
Lynn.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it was your fault. And sometimes if you didn't have... Look, in the old days, I remember someone come up to me as a kid saying, Mrs. Jones has died in childbirth. It was quite common. Even in the early 60s, women would still be dying through childbirth. So, God bless you, Len. What I'm trying to say is if you didn't have that cesareans, maybe you wouldn't be here today. So it's a catch-22. I'm not blaming anyone. That's what I mean. I'm not blaming anyone. You may not in the 60s. You'd probably be dead, Len, is what I'm saying. But you're still kicking today, which is a good thing. But it is fascinating because of all these allergies, diseases, immune deficiencies. It's not just AIDS, there's all types of immune deficiencies. Of the last 2 generations, it's because of the foods they are eating and the crap that is in it.
There's always something.
Forget about chemtrails. When you're eating that shit, it doesn't matter.
Life can be challenging. Life can be interesting. Life.
No, VMAC, I'm not saying it's universal. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the facts are when a child passes through the channel, it means that it actually does get a coating. That's what comes out along with the baby. That's the nutshell, Scarlett. We're the reproduction of ancestors from thousands of generations who hone their genetics based on their environment. But we've now moved so rapidly into processed foods. I wouldn't know what processed food would have been in the 60s. Do you know what I mean? I can't imagine what it would have been because everything was fresh.
But it was before the 60s. It's actually when it started to come out. When they
Started in America more than it did in Europe in the 60s and 70s. I remember having Americans in Australia
England.
and they had like packets of crackers. I'm thinking, what are they?
I mean, we've all been guilty of eating processed food. I had some today. I bought a block of chocolates from Cadbury that was Japs.
Awful.
I
Awful.
liked it. Japs flavoured chocolate. That's
Cracker flavoured chocolate, all
That's
right?
quite nice.
Have a think about that for a moment.
I don't eat a lot of crap, but I do sit down and I do have chips.
But I mean, colouring.
Chocolate.
preservatives, additives. Of all of those, hardly any of them in today's food are natural.
Yeah, that's probably true, VMAC. VMAC's ancestors got tough running from the English.
I don't get this hamburger helper. I don't understand that.
I don't know what what's hamburger helper?
Well, it's chemicals.
Bucky.
Yep, I believe that is probably the most important time in a child's life is the first few hours. I truly mean that, because it gets a sense of being, the warmth, suckling from a woman's breast gives it the fact that, yeah, this is my mother. They are so important. But even a lot of mothers today don't breastfeed. They actually determine before the baby's born they're not going to
Yeah.
breastfeed.
Well,
I don't get that.
No, but that's okay. Some people can't physically. Some people can't emotionally or mentally do it. It doesn't matter if the child still gets the love and the cuddles while they're feeding the bottle, whatever. I've helped a lot of women that end up with postnatal depression and all that sort of stuff. Some women just cannot breastfeed, whether it be a physical, whether it be what do you call it, like a medical
Psychological.
reasons, or yeah.
But I'll be giving counsel to PBDs in the future.
To who?
PBDs,
What's a PBD?
post-Boit depression, when we close it down and everyone's removed.
Yeah, you haven't done your what's name. Your friend hasn't done the Boit complaint line lately.
No, that's right. Bucky never called me back.
No, he's due to do one.
I mean, I'm not going to keep harping on, but I do believe it's the foods over the last couple of generations that have caused the issue. Sue me, that's what I believe. But I think we can do the best we can, and that is to try and eat fresh as much as we can. I smoke. I'm not an advocate of total health, but you get my point. I think your chances are far better by trying to keep eating fresh where you can. Sometimes you just can't. I accept that. But you can do your best. And I hear people say, oh, but fresh food's more expensive. It probably is. You need to make it a priority then. But I know people that eat takeaway every night, and they don't look good. They look older than they are. The skin doesn't look that flash. I'm not generalising, but I think that if you can actually cook some of your own meals from fresh, it has to be better for you. And you're in control of what goes in there. You don't have to be a rod of morality in society saying that everybody should eat fresh every day, because it can't happen. Some people can't. Food is a cost factor in some people's homes, but they have to go for the processed, chemically enhanced, hormone induced, colourings, additives, and they eat them because they're cheaper.
Yeah, especially.
It does actually. That's an old method my
yeah.
grandmother used to say. Used to
Dark
get
beer.
actually stout.
Stout. Yeah.
That's what I was told, stout.
That was 2 years old. Jeanette used to drink. And the other thing, and people got allergic to it, is peanuts too. Helps with breast milk.
If you, I think VMAC just said this, but if you buy fresh food in season, in the old days, it would be like every 6 to 8 weeks something would come in and go out. But they stick fresh vegetables into carbon dioxide filled warehouses and they keep it for 6 months. So some of the fresh food you're buying isn't really fresh.
Yeah, you're right, Mac. People can, well, actually,
Yeah, I don't mind the stout myself.
yeah, you can get fresh.
I like Guinness, really.
I remember when I lived up north in a mining town for nearly 20 years, I had to, our milk basically came in frozen, so you had to use it quick when you defrosted it, so we ended up just going and buying long life milk when we did shopping once every 6 weeks. Meat came in frozen. Supposedly fresh fruit and veg, well, it wasn't that great, so depending it's improved now up there apparently, but I'm talking, how long ago was that? up in the mining town.
When you were there, in
Yeah.
the 80s.
In the 80s. So it wasn't very good. It's improved now, but back then it was very hard to get anything fresh. So people did actually have to grow a lot of their own stuff in the mining town.
Oh, Leroy.
Oh. She isn't, she's not human? My God.
There's one thing that above all this thing we've been talking about, genetics and foods and allergies and all that, is it just me? Or does everyone notice that lots of people have become unfriendly? In other words, they don't want to converse with you. They live their lives online, on the phone, and it's got to the stage that our social fabric is now virtual. Is it just me, or does everybody notice that?
But again, it has its good and its bad points. It's like we wouldn't be sitting here now with all these beautiful people who I totally love. Go and say it, Seeds. I love you all.
Oh, for
I
fuck's
love you all.
sake.
You wouldn't be having.
I
this
like yous, all right? Don't get cocky.
You wouldn't be having this conversation and exchanging knowledge and having difference of opinions. We can agree to disagree. So all that, there's always a good side. Yes, we've never been so more connected as we are disconnected. I agree, but in one word, in one way, it's good.
What I'm trying to say is we have never been at this stage in humanity so well connected through the media, and at this stage of humanity we've been so devoid of social contact.
Yeah,
And I mean on a physical level, what people just said
yeah,
there.
I agree.
I
with
do
that.
smile at people, and I often get a smile back,
Yeah.
but I often get that stare from them, what are you doing?
Yeah, we say hello to everyone as we walk past or give a smile. Yeah, the physical contact, that's true. That sort of diminishes. But that's just either you as an individual can change all that. We can all change it. Like, Seeds, cut the string, get off, go down the street. Come on, go to the pub.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll be dead when I stop doing it, meaning if I look at someone and smile and say g'day, and I'll keep doing that. But less people respond, that's for sure. It's even nice, I mean, I can't do it with you guys, but it's even nice if I said, I'll tell you what's going on, I'll come over Thursday with the missus and I'm going to bring a casserole and some homemade bread. Now, that used to happen,
Yeah, yeah.
but it doesn't happen. Everyone's got to live in this fast pace. No one's got time, but they spend 8 hours a day online, but they haven't got any time.
So I always believe you should get to know your neighbours and introduce yourself and say hello when you move somewhere, which is what we do. I mean, it's the same online though. Let's face it, there's people you don't want to deal with or talk to, and that happens in real life as well.
It's like people, and the bottom of YouTube, if you like, is a great example where, oh, I better tilt about my big buff out. It's a bit too high. Am I still spinning?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button, sorry. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. How'd you get it back home? You just lead it home with a rope, Vinny?
Oh. Did you film it, Vinny?
He'd pissed off, he wouldn't be filming nothing. He'd just be cursing the cow.
Oh, God, that's not good.
Dogs brought it home, yeah. Cows don't really care about fences. Cows weigh a tonne. So if they decide to lean against a fence, actually horses are worse. I used to have horses and they'd always be trying to push a fence down the bastards. But they taste good. Cows, I mean, they do taste good. Got a bit of cow in the fridge, actually. But I think if we can look at the bottom of YouTube is what I was going to say, and how many people are attracted to conflict. And everyone's normal life, like VMAC or Scarlett or mine, there's not a great deal of conflict in my normal life at all. And I can see the attraction for people to gather at a catastrophe. This person says, I hate you, and I hate you for that reason. And then I'll start, go over to my channel, and I'll tell you how much I hate you again. So you get that momentum of rubbernecking. It's the only thing I can describe it. Where you go over there and listen to someone whinge about someone else. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. They're not in part of your lives. It's just that you tend to, go and have a stinky beak.
Yeah, but that happens in real life as well.
No, what I'm saying is what Scarlett was saying about
Yeah.
privacy and seclusion, and you sort of, you open the window of YouTube and then you see 2 or 3 people fighting each other, and it's like,
I just like people watching. I like going out and just watching people. We enjoy doing that when
we do that a lot. We're going to have a coffee somewhere and we'll sit there for an hour and maybe get another coffee and yak to a couple of strangers and look at all the pretty girls go past, all those normal things.
Yeah, when Vinny takes us out for walks, we watch Vinny. I like watching around Melbourne and all that.
You've got to get a bit of a balance there, Vinny. Otherwise, when you go out with your wife, don't talk to strangers.
But we do, but we,
Yeah, we
we
do,
both do it. Yeah, we both talk to strangers, say hello, or you strike up a conversation with somebody.
Got to go and get some more magic weed.
And sometimes it depends. You've been talking to them for ages, whatever, and you say, well, let's go on a cuppa. You know, you just meet this person and you go have a cuppa. Yeah, it happens, Scarlett. Oh, we just talk to anyone, doesn't matter. Oh God, my mum used to watch The Bold and the Beautiful or something, I think it was called. Oh, my mum loved that show. And
I'll show Vinny what we're going.
party. Vinny, Seeds had someone ask him once to join his band.
We got these today, Vinny. I don't know if you can see them.
No, not really.
A couple of park benches. And the guy done a fantastic job. He's got new Jarrah all the way through there. They're very well made. And he took these, sandblasted the old railings and cemented them and then painted them. They're real chuffed. They're going to go in the garden somewhere in the future. Really good.
Yeah.
What?
Chicken.
Okay.
Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Vinny, remember once we were somewhere, I think it was when we lived in Augusta, some guy came up to Seeds and said, do you want to join my band? Do you want to come and have a jam, man? They, remember that?
Yep.
I suppose because it was his beard and long hair.
No, we're going to put them down the back garden, terrace area.
I know, no, because we've had a lot of thieving around here actually. We've had bad spats of youngsters coming into people's yards.
Oh, God. Well, no one in Australia watches Home and Away.
Oh,
anyway.
Home and Away, God. Yeah,
But no one watches it here.
our two friends, the two,
Canadians.
no, the two boys, Andy and Chris.
Oh, the two brothers, the Lover brothers, yeah.
They love Home and Away.
I don't watch that shit. I don't drink Foster's and I don't watch Home and Away.
Oh, Mel, you're going? Where are you going?
Are you going to open up a chat, Vinny? We'll close down, mate. That's cool. It's all good. Yeah, I don't watch that. I don't drink Foster's. No one drinks fucking Foster's.
Are you taking us out for a ride, Vinny?
I can't believe anyone drinks Foster's.
Oh, no, she's
no,
not
mister.
going. No, meaning... other person.
There was an old show.
Oh,
Vinny
Blue
might remember
Heelers,
it. Do you remember?
yes.
Do you remember Bluebird, Vinny, with Brian Wenzel and a few of the other characters?
A country practice.
Bluebird. I didn't mind that one. Roger, the local journalist, and yeah, it was a bit like an old country Victorian town. Yeah, that was old. That was 70s. That's like Division 4 and Homicide and Hagues.
Oh, God.
Evening, viewers.
We don't really watch that much TV anymore. There were certain series we like to watch.
Yeah, we tend to watch what we're going to watch on.
I'm disappointed Outlanders we haven't got.
Come on, Vinny, let's check your memory out because I know who it was.
Oh,
who was the
God,
big
number-
booby girl on number 96? Come on.
I know. Number 96, my dad loved
Come on,
that
Vinny.
show.
You remember the tits, but you remember the name. You're getting close, the blonde one with the big boobies.
Starts with A, Vinny. Starts with A.
Ooh, this is testing his skill line. He's more interested in the breasts.
It starts with A.
No, he's not going to get it. Tell him.
A, B.
Come on,
Abigail.
you got to remember Abigail. Hello, oh my boobies. That's the one, Abigail. But we had full frontal nudity in the 70s and 80s, early 80s, and then they sort of knocked it on the head. In a metaphor. That's a metaphor, not knock it on the head like bash the bishop or anything.
Yeah, my parents used to watch Number 96. Actually, we were allowed to watch it. I don't remember my parents screening us from anything.
I think Milkway says a woman, but no name is not required with a nice rack.
What was the show where they won tats? Oh,
I don't know what he's talking
I
about.
can't remember.
We had a changeover in Australia from the 60s and 70s, and then the mid-80s. We had lots of, up until that time it was Australian productions and English productions. And then there was an influx of American shows in the mid-80s, and they took over. There was hardly any local production done in here again because they syndicated a lot of American shows.
Oh, Jazz is back because you talked about boobs. She said this is better. You're talking about this, Jazz, this conversation, Jazz.
And it's still not sort of recovered anymore in Australia. There's still productions of movies done here, but there's not many local shows.
There's a lot done filmed in Melbourne.
Oh, there's the soaps, all that shit I don't watch. But we were sort of rocking in the late 70s, early 80s with things like with John English and other actors and colonial type shows and Rush, remember Rush?
Yeah.
Things like that, and they were picking up. And then all this American stuff come over and they knocked it on the head.
Hey, hey, it's Saturday. Johnny, what's his name?
Johnny Young.
Johnny Young, the Johnny Young show.
Close your eyes and I kiss you.
Tomorrow I'll miss you.
Just remember that I will be true. And while I am away, I'll ride home every day.
Mr. Summers, shut the fuck up.
Oh, Scarlett had a trophy rack at one time. Oh God, I never have.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Scarlett walked in the room. Dun 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 dun. Her rack was a balloon. Bum 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 bum. You can finish off the song, Scarlett, if you like.
They renamed the sub. Which one was that, Vinny?
Packing an upper.
Ah. Oh, and then Sylvania Waters.
Oh, do you remember that shit show? It
Oh
was-
my God, that must have been the first reality show.
That was so bad. Oh dear, where have the apples gone? Pick
What did-
fiddleheads. That sounds interesting. What the hell is a fiddlehead? Is that an
It's-
apple?
No, fiddlehead is a vegetable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dickie Knee.
Mr. Shamish, Mr. Shamish.
So what's he done with the apples, Mel? Yeah, music shows, we had lots of them too. What was that?
Countdown.
That's it, Countdown.
Number one on the Australian list. Even they got knocked on the head by American show. Do you remember the radio show, Vinny, called Casey Casey in the top 40? And there was no Australian songs.
Mel. That's when you play good music in your room, Vinny. We sit and just listen to the music.
I've got 2 or 3 online radio stations that have got all the old good music. It's really good. Smooth FM is a good one. If you go online,
And in Sydney it was 2SM.
no, it's Sydney, it's Smooth FM, but there's a
Oh,
Smooth
yes,
FM
yeah.
all over Australia, but the Smooth FM Sydney, they've got all really good music stretching from 60s up to the 2000s.
Yes, you've got a good music collection, Vinny. We sometimes just listen to your room when you just
Vinny,
play music.
I'm that old. When I was a kid, there was no FM. It's true.
Yeah, I've got some old books, Scarlett. I collect old books.
And to get an AM license now is just about near impossible. It's a band modulated with AM and FM.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a kid. It was always AM. There's a bit of a nefarious reason why they take everyone off AM. I think it's now used for other reasons.
Yeah, old tunes are good.
Just Google Smooth FM, and trust me, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, transistor radio.
Jenny, when I was a kid, I used to make crystal radios, and I kid you not, copper pipes. I used to use all them. And you hear this. Hello. Oh, I got something. That's what it was like. I don't know if kids would know what a crystal radio is these days. I'm sure
No.
they're around.
Mum and Dad had one, a proper one. They gave it to a museum.
AM? AM was banned here in the mid-80s, I
What do you
think.
mean it's banned?
There are very few AM modulated radio stations.
Yeah, because occasionally when I put the radio
They're
on, I
there,
get
don't
it,
get me
yeah.
wrong, but they're very much within a bandwidth. Whereas AM used to go, Vinny, help me here. AM used to go up from 650 to 970 or something. That was the range in AM. And now the bandwidth has sort of been removed. FM radio was sold to us as being better quality.
Well,
That's-
so, with some it was.
Well, yeah, but I've listened to old AM radio stations when I was a kid and they were fine.
Well,
nothing wrong with
yeah,
them.
they just improved. Remember War of the Worlds?
No, I wasn't
Well,
around for that, but
no,
I do
but-
remember listening to it.
Yeah, it's a well-known story.
Ginsberg's team blew it on one bet and recovered with the West Coast Eagles. Ah, yeah, that's my
Oh.
team, Vinny.
Yep.
Well, I don't know whether you actually listened or saw the game, but we were 6 and a bit goals down, and we come back and beat them. My son-in-law's going to be pissed because he's an Adelaide
Yeah, because our
supporter.
son-in-law is an Adelaide supporter, and it was Seed's team played tonight against his team.
Where the Eagles, West Coast Eagles. I actually trained in the very first squad, Vinny. 1987. I didn't make the cut, but I did train with them.
Well, you would have.
You must have
Because
You must have
Adelaide-
bet around half time, did you? Made good money.
Because Adelaide was more the popular one.
Yeah, they were down 6 and a bit goals, and they just crawled their way back. They're a good side. Geelong. I liked Geelong way back in the 80s because of one man called Gary Ablett, an absolute legend, no question. Not in my team, but I admired his capabilities.
I go for the West Coast Eagles because their thing is an eagle, and I love eagles and birds. That's the only reason. And I also go for Fremantle, but the only reason is because they're purple.
There's a lot of logic in that. Hope he never wins the game. Who does he support, Mel? Sounds like he must support Melbourne or something. It's a good code of footy. I've followed rugby for years and just can't get into it. I don't mind rugby union, but I do love Australian rules football. It's a game I played. It's tough. There's no padding. And you do break bones.
That's our daughter's favourite team is Essendon, and she
Yeah, that was a scandal led by just a few people. You can't blame the whole Essendon Football Club for that. But they've never recovered, let's be honest.
oh cool Mel.
What was that?
Mel's uncle played for Hawthorn back in the 80s.
What was his name, Mel? Just give me his first name. If his surname's the same as yours, don't tell me. But I knew most of the Hawks players in the 80s. Gary, there's 2 or 3 Garys I can think of. Was he a little fella? Was he a rover? All right, no worries. We'll leave it at that. Because we don't want to buck the system, do we, Mel? Snigger, snigger. Get it? Don't want to buck the system.
No, I don't always sit and watch the footy. If it's a good game, I'll get into it. All season I'll sit there and I'll say, yeah, they're going to win. I knew West Coast were going to win.
That particular player, Mel, won a game of footy because someone crossed the line between the guy standing on the mark and Mr. Buck, and he won the game for them in a classic 1980s football match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
when,
I know who you're talking about.
when the players had jobs, Vinny said, sometimes I've got to read the chat to see it because it goes too fast, he doesn't see it. Vinny said his friend had a North Melbourne player as a teacher in the 80s when the players had jobs.
I played footy with probably a dozen players that went on to play VFL at the time, not AFL, of course. And then quite a lot of them that I played with later went on to play for the AFL, like Murray Renstred, Chris Mainwaring. I was very unfortunate about Chris's demise, but many other players as well.
So Mel said yes, and then she said captain, and then she said on mum's side, not dad.
Yeah, I know who she's talking about. He's originally a West Australian, as you obviously know, Mel. Played for Subiaco. That's who he originally played for. 'Cause he played at the same time I did.
Yeah, and of course now the women have got a football team.
Oh, right, Patricia. That sounds like very much a Carlton name.
How do you pronounce that?
Petrosia, I think you're saying. But it's hard to explain to people about Petrosia, I think you're trying to say, or Petrica. And Vinny's obviously been to an AFL game, but if you've never been to an AFL game of footy, you got to go, because the atmosphere is a bit like, I would imagine, the Colosseum in Roman times. It's just like that. And on TV, you don't hear the crunch and the bumps that you do at the ground, and the roar from the crowd is just unbelievable. So if you've never been to a big game of Australian rule football, definitely go.
Well, it'd be like the Americans, what do you call what they have? Gridiron? The atmosphere.
Yeah, for me, gridiron falls down in one spot because it goes hot and cold. In other words, they play for 3 minutes, then there's 15 minutes of ads, and then a whole side comes off, the defence covers up, and then it's like there's 40 people playing on each side.
I mean, next time the Eagles play locally, we can just get an Uber there because we're that close to the ground. I wouldn't drive there.
No, well, and then I can drink.
But you have to get in and get your tickets early when it's all...
Yeah, it's about $100, $150 to a game of AFL.
But you want a good seat.
You do. You want a good seat. Yeah, our local footy's picked up over the years. After the decimation in Western Australia from all the good players going into the AFL, there was a void of about 15 years. You just can't take all that skill all at once from a local competition and expect it to maintain its level. And the crowds reflected. When I used to go to watch footy matches, there'd be 30,000 watching a game of footy. Now there's about 3,000. So that's how much the AFL decimated local footy. Not only in Western Australia, the same thing happened in Victoria. when the AFL kicked in, not the VFL. A lot of Victorians went to different states and it decimated the local footy. South Australia was the same. They're the three big states in footy, is West Australia, South Australia and Victoria. Actually, there's some woman here who beat up a 12-year-old umpire last week, Vinny. She could be going to prison
Oh, yes.
because her son didn't get a free kick or something. Parents should be banned, or they should be put behind glass while their kids play, because they're atrocious. My boy deserved a free kick. You shouldn't have hit the umpire, lady. It's terrible in one aspect. It's not a great example. All right, I think we'll shut this down. Vinny, you going to open yours up, mate?
You
Actually,
know,
Vinny, I'm not sure if we had the real Bergs in here tonight, but some people
we
said,
did. I went to his channel.
and he was talking about cooking and food. I'm thinking he must be drugged.
Are you, after you shower, you're going to open up and play music or...
She's drinking again on the vodka, even though she'll tell you it's water.
It's water.
It's homemade vodka.
It's not vodka. All right, going to open a room up.
All right,
Come in and listen.
all the people here, I hope you have a good night or day, wherever you are. Benny's
And-
opening up a chat shortly.
And big hugs to everybody, and I love yous all.
Really? I told you, I like yous.
Big
All right,
kisses.
I like you. Don't get fresh. Enjoy your day or night wherever you are. And if you have to be the enforcer with some people because they're an arsehole, just kick them in the head. Just once.
And don't forget, thumbs up.
Don't worry about the thumbs up. Seriously.
I'm just kidding.
Just make sure you do the super chat, all
And
right?
yeah, don't
Get
forget
the super chat. Bully, donate to the super chat now.
Bully,
If
he
you
has-
don't donate now and you don't support me, Bully, and you don't love me, I'm going to have to boot you.
And respect.
Does that sound familiar?